Yo, team, what up? How y'all doing
Hi.
today?
Whoa.
We missed ya. All right.
We did.
We're. Did you not miss them? Did you really?
It's only been
I
a day.
My goodness. Golly gee willikers, Batman. Hi! Welcome back. So this is happening again. God. This guy's dead. We got like four lines out of him, I think like literally 4 months ago. Oh! Bryblaze!
Hey,
Thank you very much.
Bryblaze.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Insert clever Shakespeare quote.
Yeah, he had a couple lines an entire game ago, and now he's either dead or a very good actor.
He's been acting for a week.
Wait, that's dedication to your craft. If so.
Method.
If he wasn't acting, or if he was acting before, he isn't anymore.
Yeah. And now Gregson thinks Hoseki Natsume did this again. God, you'd think that they'd leave him alone by now. All right, Jones, we've kept you waiting. What are you up to, bud?
He's been standing there for a week.
It's true. Yeah.
His poor
Before we get into that, though,
thighs.
is your Parsec volume up?
Is my Parsec volume up? Give me just
Oh,
a
yeah, it is a little
moment.
quiet.
Like any good Shakespeare character, he died off stage.
Oh, no. There,
Falstaff, no!
Mr. Sholmes, what are you doing?
You only need to observe to know it, my dear fellow. Investigating naturally.
There's nothing natural about that pose.
Mr. Sholmes, have you made some miraculous discovery?
Patience, my dear madam, patience. We've not been here in this room 5 minutes or weeks, you know, somewhere in between. So far, all I've managed to deduce is what actually happened.
Oh, is that all?
My goodness!
Whoa!
But isn't that everything we need to know, Mr. Sholmes?
Well, you see, I've gotten so far as he's dead, and that's what happened.
Okay.
But we'll get there. Now that you propose the idea, I believe one could indeed say it that way. At the present time, I have managed to draw two incontrovertible conclusions. Aha! The first, that there was a physical struggle here last night in which the victim fought for his life.
Good.
Ah!
Mr. Natsume, what's wrong? Is something that Mr. Sholmes said significant somehow?
No, don't mind me, forgets I was here.
Soseki-san.
Soseki.
And my second conclusion is that there was a poison lingering in the air here last night that passed the victim's lips. No, nonsense! Ah!
Wow. All right, Mr. Natsume, why are you reacting so extremely to Mr. Sholmes' deductions?
No, please, pretend I am not here. Invisible, ineffable, inscrutable, insignificant.
Impossible to
Oh, he's just like that.
Yeah.
You must tell us everything, Mr. Sholmes. Spare no detail.
But of course. Let the theoretical tragedy here before us be unraveled by my great deductions, presented for your pleasure in 2 acts.
We've heard some truly astounding great deductions from Mr. Sholmes in the past. No doubt this will be no exception. What miracles will unfold before our eyes this time?
So, my dear fellows, for your delight and wonder, let the curtain rise. For Herlock Sholmes' Logic and Reasoning Spectaculaire, Act 1.
We back, baby!
Here we
The
go
great deduction.
again.
The game's
It's been a while.
It has. Cause of death.
Careful observation of the victim reveals us the events that transpired on this disconsolate room last night.
I'm not dead. I feel
Foam at
happy.
Foam at the mouth of the deceased clearly indicates the use of whipped cream. Next to the victim was a large dining plate which contains, you'll observe, poisoned butter.
A pound of butter.
Oh. 1/2 of a sizable bar of soap. Meaningful, undoubtedly. Why is the soap so purposely set upon a dish? Like the victim's last supper, in fact, yes? Could it be that the man told us swear? Of course, the fork reveals the answer. It appears that the young man's appetite was his undoing. Taking up arms in the form of his cutlery, the victim engaged in a deadly battle for his life. It was a clean fight. Yet the struggle against his hunger was in vain, for in the end he could not resist devouring the slippery feast. But London's foul soap is besmirched by foul poison. Yes, the victim's life was claimed by the poison that tainted the contents of this plate.
Which, to be clear, was soap. You're saying.
The soap and the lather around the young man's mouth are too perfectly matched to ignore. The cause of death was clearly intoxication due to excessive ingestion of foul soap. Though, personally, I have a greater interest in the taste of the foul candle wax, of course.
I don't know what you mean by that, but
Why?
okay. Poisoning from soap ingestion.
All right.
Suicide or murder?
The cause of death identified as we proceed to Act 2, where we ponder the next question. Was this suicide or murder? The audience will recall that death occurred during the victim's last supper. Did the man dine alone and die alone? The single teacup suggests the answer. To draw a conclusion on such mere evidence would be foolish, however, certainly. The careful criminal could have absconded with his own cup to cover his tracks.
Hold on.
Well, allow me to lift the veil of doubt, my dear fellow.
Oh no.
Indeed. What reveals the answer, of course, is the broken lock. Through force open now. Although force open now, at the time of the incident, this door was locked. And the sole key was in the victim's pocket. In other words, the victim consumed the poison, and he must have been alone. Alone with his inferior soap, whence wafted an inferior scent. And with that acrid aroma lingering in the air, the victim met his end, a tragic solitude. We can take comfort only in the fact that his soul was well cleansed on the way to the hereafter.
Nice.
Now, Sholmes, were you ignoring Soseki because he asked you to?
Thus concludes the final act of
Who?
Sholmes' great deduction.
Sherlock Holmes.
Sherlock Holmes.
Sherlock Holmes.
Sherlock Holmes, yeah.
Oh, no, no.
There's just one thing, Mr. Sholmes.
You are disposed to identifying just one thing, are you? Mr. Naruto, what concerns you?
Well, no matter how hungry he was, do you really think the man would have eaten soap?
It is quite apparent that this man had barely a penny to his name. It is a curious thing, but one so destitute, soap can suddenly appear quite irresistibly appetizing.
I guess their soap would have been mostly animal fat, right?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Still not probably good for indigestion.
No.
How
Well,
extraordinary.
and soot.
In truth, I have tried this up myself in the past.
You've eaten
No!
My dear fellow, it was some time ago. My postulation was that it would cleanse my gut.
And did it?
Not in the way you
As as I writhed in agony on the floor and split the contents of my stomach. Yes, I believe it did. The experience taught me a valuable lesson. Soap is quite poisonous. It has an unpleasant taste that leads to great discomfort. In summary, I cannot recommend it.
Believe me, I wouldn't eat it even if you did.
There's something that troubles me as well, actually.
Oh, what's that?
It's Mr. Natsume. I couldn't help noticing him shuddering and quivering out of the corner of my eye. Almost as if Mr. Sholmes' deductions touched a nerve somehow.
No, not it!
Well, that clenched teeth episode didn't last.
I think, judging by Mr. Natsume's reaction, the great detective's deductions may need some gentle corrections in order to reach the actual truth.
Yes, Mr. Sholmes' deductions, observations and deductions are sometimes a little too sharp. He has a tendency to hit the nail on the side of the head and drive it in at an obtuse angle. When he does that, it falls to us to straighten things out.
All right. Oh,
All right then, let's see what we can do.
Great metaphor, everybody.
yes. We must pick out the key words in Mr. Sholmes' quite brilliant deductions and discreetly exchange them for something that makes a little more sense. If we can do that, I'm sure we'll arrive at what Mr. Sholmes meant to say in the first place.
In that case, are you ready for the second performance of the day? Once again, my dear fellows, for your continued delight and wonder, let the curtain rise. For Herlock Sholmes' Logic and Reasoning Spectaculaire, Act 1, Part 2.
Okay. Do you think before we got here, Iris was the one that was doing all these corrections? Or Wilson?
Maybe.
Yes.
Or Wilson.
Definitely Wilson.
Oh, yes, you already said all this.
Yeah.
Say it again, funny man.
Nah.
Please God, no.
Take a break, funny man.
Thank you.
Now let's figure he's funny.
Fork? Here we go. Well, you can't deny that a fork implies the man was eating something or about to eat something.
Yes, that's true. If I were to decide to eat some soap, I would prefer to use a fork than to attempt it with chopsticks.
And, of course, only half of the bar of soap is left on the plate.
But might there not be some other explanation? Something material that proves whether or not the man really ate some soap.
Okay. Wait, there.
Oh.
Yep, hello.
Ah.
Look, there's some more soap on the floor here. Mr.
Any
Shamspeare
statue soap?
must have really loved the stuff.
Let's not jump to conclusions, Mr. Naruhodo. Look closely at this soap. Do you see that it would fit together perfectly with the half bar on the table?
What the? How can that be?
I think that they are two halves of the same bar that broke apart.
That makes sense. What's this other thing? Oh, it's his hat. I see. Okay.
Chat says examine the soap.
Okay, in a minute.
Snap soap?
I suppose you'd eat soap with a fork, would you?
I don't think it's a question of which implement you'd use. You shouldn't eat soap full stop.
But then why? Why does this man have a fork in his hand?
Oh dear. I understand your frustration, Mr. Naruhodo, but please don't take it out on me. The point is
On the fork.
Mm-hmm.
that, and also, if we decide the man used his fork to eat the soap, we wouldn't be changing Mr. Sholmes' deduction. So we really ought to consider some other clues.
Okay. What about this one? No? Okay, I guess I can't. What about the teacup? Do you think he was drinking tea with his soap?
The the cup's empty, so there's no way of knowing.
Ah, how about this for an idea? Perhaps the cup was full of water, and he was dissolving soap in it so he could gulp as much down as possible.
Please remember that he may not actually have been the soap lover that he's been made out to be.
Then
Impossible.
I'm all out of ideas. Okay, let's just get to it.
Take that!
Need soap.
Could it be that the man was about to eat it? Of course, the other piece of soap reveals the answer. It being the other half of the soap on the table. In short, the victim was not eating soap at all.
But it's obvious, really. For no depths of hunger could drive any man to attempt to eat soap. Who would think that? Even I, with my unquenchable thirst for practical knowledge, took only one single bite.
But that begs the question of how the man was poisoned, because there's no sign of any food on the table.
An excellent observation, Miss Naruto, and one that furnishes us with the answer that we seek. For Linden's foul soap has been merged by a foul poison, and we are back to what I said before.
Oh yeah, is that right?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, great. Mr. Sholmes is still pushing the soap argument then.
I mean, you were too.
Perhaps he's suggesting the man licked the soap rather than ate it.
If soap in London is that poisonous, I don't think I want to be washing my hands with it. But there are no signs of any food in this room at all.
Of course, food isn't the only thing that passes people's lips, is it?
Oh. I mean, oh, this?
Hint, hint, nudge, nudge.
Oh. The contents of the plate is just the soap again, isn't it?
Well, you know there's a saying in Japanese, don't you? If your food is poisoned, you might as well eat it, plate and all.
Well, there's an image.
What?
All I can picture now is the victim first taking a bite of the soap and then the plate. The soap like some tofu and the plate like a giant rice cracker.
Oh dear. That sounds like a very bland combination.
Yeah, I don't recommend it.
I'm guessing what they mean by that saying is like, if you're already going to die, just go all out.
Did we already see
Yeah.
this? If the victim
Probably.
didn't eat the soap, then what did he eat?
Yes, it's a real mystery, isn't it?
Ah, I've got it. He wasn't interested in eating the soap at all. It was this fork he wanted to satisfy his hunger with.
What?
Mr. Naruhodo.
What
Why
happened
does
to
being around Sholmes turn you into a dumbass?
Contagious.
Sholmes has dumbass energy.
I really don't think it's helpful to continue with this line of reasoning that the gentleman had peculiar tastes.
Susanoo-san has such a gentle way with words, but I know when I've been told off. Okay, alright, here we go. Take that. Yes, the victim's life was claimed by poison that tainted the teacup.
Poisson.
Indeed, cups have been vessel for choice of practicing poisoners for over centuries. And it would appear that this victim drank every last drop.
There's no sign of food anywhere in the room.
Which leads us to the immutable conclusion. The cause of was clearly intoxication due to the ingestion of poison contained in this key cup.
In this key tub.
Cup.
In this key cup.
Keep up.
In the key tub.
Poison in the tea. Round 2. Yep. Is this new?
Same.
Same. Yeah, same
Okay.
until the first branch.
Suicide or murder?
We're not gonna point out that he starts looking away.
Not yet.
Okay, here we go. The Western vessel for infused hot drinks again. It's already featured heavily in our deduction so far.
Yes, we can imagine that shortly before his death, Mr. Shamspeare was having a drink of tea. There would be nothing remarkable about that, but what troubles me
Is Mr. Natsume's
Natsume's-
is Mr. Natsume's reaction when he heard Mr. Shom suggest it. There's more to this deduction than it seems.
we must closely examine the scene of the crime again for some more clues.
Okay, sounds good. Is there more to look? Oh, a second cup.
Oh.
It's another Western vessel for.
It's a teacup!
Pardon me. Key top?
It's a key top!
Can,
You're
You're a bad influence, Sholmes.
Yep.
Yes, I have.
Why does it have a handle?
And it
Did
too is empty.
Given that he's actually holding this one in his hand, we can assume that this is the cup.
We
from-
can assume that this is the cup from which Mr. Shamsphere was actually drinking.
Wow. I think it's difficult to tell on this specific screen.
Yeah.
But if that's the case, this changes everything. Everything we've deduced up to now is turned on its head.
It does.
I have a bad feeling about this. I almost don't want to say it.
Yes. I know exactly how you feel.
Well, it's probably that.
He dead.
He is dead.
But what about the soap?
Go back to the soap, please. It's empty and it's the only cup on the table.
It would appear so, yes. And when you consider those facts, Mr. Sholmes' reasoning seems highly logical.
But it's always the same in these deductions. The real truth is always buried a little deeper than the great detective suggests.
Mr. Naruhodo, you seem very dubious of Mr. Sholmes all of a sudden.
Whoa, hi out there. Jesus.
Let's get him!
They
This-
came back.
It's my turn this time, Jesus. All right,
Oh.
let's just go with
Oh,
the cup.
God.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's my boys.
Did the man dine and die alone? This other teacup suggests the answer. I just said key tub by accident. Damn it.
You've been infected.
Yes, there were
Done it
two
again.
key tubs in this room all along.
It's a great bit.
Jay.
Sasaki.
Sasaki?
Oh.
In other words, this is a strong indication that at the victim's last supper, there was a guest present. Is that Wanderer's
Oh,
character?
yeah!
Garadeb?
Not Garrett.
Not Gary that, but like the
Oh,
top
no,
hat guy.
uh,
the banker?
I don't. Yeah, the banker. I don't remember his name. There was a guest present.
Oh.
Did he have
He's
a
not
Bruce
quite
Fairplay?
Bruce
Shades.
Fairplay. It looks a lot like Bruce Fairplay.
At the very least, we can now say with certainty that somebody else was here in this room last night, taking tea with the victim. What are you talking about? Actually, unbelievably, justly unreasonable! To draw a conclusion from such mere evidence would be foolish, however, certainly.
In which case, what more can we deduce about this possible guest at the table?
Well, allow me to lift the veil of doubt, my dear fellow.
Do you mean to say you know exactly who was in this room at the time of the victim's death?
I have a slight inclination, yes. Indeed. What reveals the answer, of course, is this lock.
I'm not sure I like where this deduction is going now.
Oh,
Also,
no.
that definitely happened when Soseki was asked to break the door down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a thought.
Uh-huh.
Soseki did poison him, but he was
No.
given the poison disguised as a drink.
Oh god, uh-oh.
Oh, like take this down to.
Uh-oh.
To Shakespeare and have a drink with him. Enjoy the freedom.
Uh-oh.
Womp womp.
I'm afraid it's too late to go back to the Halcyon? Halcyon?
Hmm.
Halcyon.
Too much soap.
Hmm.
Hal!
Is this the Hal room?
Cyan.
But the identity of the guest who was in here last night when the victim passed away is something I have a very bad feeling about.
Well, you can try to ignore your feelings, but we cannot ignore the truth, Mr. Naruhodo.
No, I suppose not. Time to look around again.
Oh, Dragoni points out something fair. The logic with the lock was because the door had to be kicked down because Shakespeare was alone.
Right.
Oh dear. The latch is most definitely broken, isn't it? The door was kicked in by Mr. Natsume, according to what Mr. Garadeb told the inspector.
Who knew his short, thin little legs had so much strength in them?
Have you seen those?
I'm
They're
not sure
not
the length of his
samples.
legs are in any way significant here.
They are braced with clogs, so, you know, you can really get there. Perhaps this says more about the poor state of the door than about Mr. Natsume's strength, actually.
Careful, if he overheard that remark, he'd almost certainly have a lively response.
I don't know. Can this broken lock really tell us anything about who was here? What about this drink?
It's empty.
Empty of liquid, but full of air? That makes you think, doesn't it?
Makes you think.
It makes me think you're full of hot air. We should be thinking about who else was in the room at the time.
Father, Suzaru-san's quip in response was cleverer than my original riddle. Books. Oh, these are your books!
No.
Oh, no!
Oh, god
At-
damn it.
At first glance, it seems as though the only things in this room are that makeshift stage and the costumes. I overlooked these 3 books initially.
I wonder what they are. Let's see. The titles read The Picture of Monsieur Lecoq, Canterbury Yearnings, A Meal for Gabriel.
Wait, I'm sure I've heard those titles before.
It could just be an incredible coincidence, but they're the exact same 3 books that Mr. Natsume purchased the other day.
What? Yes, on the day of the unfortunate incident when Miss Green was stabbed. Soseki-san had just been to a bookshop and bought them, that's right.
And now those 3 titles are here in the room of the victim.
Yet Mr.
Whoa,
Natsume
whoa.
claims never to have been here before. What does this mean, do you think?
I really don't know what to make of it.
Pile of familiar books. Is there anything else to look at? No? No? Okay, it's that. Indeed, what reveals the answer, of course, is the pile of familiar books.
Quite so. It is no mere coincidence that these 3 titles are here in this room. It is the link to the truth. Ah!
Mr. Natsume, you purchased these books 4 days ago at a secondhand bookshop.
That's just a coincidence. In that case, you will be able to bring the same 3 titles from your own room, will you not? This very moment. No, never, not negotiable.
If you can't bring your own copies here, it proves that these 3 books are in fact yours. Having purchased the books 4 days ago and returned to your lodgings, you were arrested the very next day. So you could conceivably have brought the books here on that evening, but you never mentioned that.
In other words, you would only have brought these 3 books here to the victim's room.
Very good, excellent.
Last night, having returned to your lodgings after the trial concluded at the Old Bailey.
We found the speed text. Optimal movement.
He was wave dashing across London.
In short, there's only one possible conclusion. The victim died here in this room last night as a result of poisoning.
And that same night, the victim had a visitor.
And that visitor
was you, Mr. Soseki Natsume.
ditto. Thus concludes the final act of Herlock Sholmes' great deduction.
Maybe I should have kept this under my hat, actually. Mr. Sholmes, I'm borrowing your hat.
But I mean, what if he is the murderer?
It won't fit.
Maybe I should have deduced this when Gregson was not here. How about that?
Yeah.
Not again! Not again! Not again! Not again!
Well then, Mr. Natsume. It would appear. Stop eating. It would appear you're gonna have to accompany me down to the yard again.
But wait! Hold your horses!
Yes.
Door, key, locked! Entry, exit, entirely impossible!
He's so flustered, he's even being stranger than normal.
What? You think that's an alibi? You could have just made a copy. You live in the same building after all. You'd have had plenty of opportunities, I'm sure.
Misery me!
Sorry, sir. We'll get your chance to give your side of the story later.
The facts speak for themselves, Mr. Mustache. I hate him. I hate him. I hate him. You horrible Herlock Sholmes!
Now we know why he hated Herlock again.
Yeah, now it makes sense. He really has found
Yeah.
himself an arch rival now, hasn't he?
Come on now. No dilly-dallying. Outside of his carriage waiting.
Now's your chance, Soseki. Take a bite. Take a bite. Go!
I am not hungry!
Oh.
I don't want to do it.
Why not?
Why not?
Low.
Why not?
Low.
Low.
Say, repeat after me. Coom.
Coom?
Yes.
Much better than the alternative.
Loku.
Local. It's Latin.
Well, let me discuss it with him. When I get the word. You sure?
He looks locked.
I don't think he does.
Because like, you have to go, look, it doesn't, look here.
You said it last game.
Lokum.
I don't get it.
Ah, that's weird.
I locked him soon, Mr. Naruto Esquire.
I don't get it. I don't
I'm
understand.
sorry. I'm not from this country.
Ah.
Je
You've been
Ma-
saying it last case.
He didn't pronounce it correctly.
I
last
ever
time.
did.
No, I didn't.
I never imagined to be in this position again, but you have to help me, please, please. I am innocent.
I'm surprised you're not as angry at me as you are at him, to be
Yeah.
honest. All right, I understand. We'll come to your cell later and talk about it.
Sholmes was about to get you out scot-free, and
Yeah,
then
kinda.
we were the one that
Yeah.
pointed you out.
We screwed this up.
Yeah.
And one more thing.
Oh, yes?
My poor little kitty cat. Please give him breakfast for me.
So this is the custom why we suddenly had the cat.
This is why we have the cat
I
now.
see. And
Yeah,
so,
we just had to assume. That explains a lot. I hate it.
yeah. His evil curse still apparently unbroken. Soseki-san found himself once again the prime suspect in a case of murder. Thanks to the incriminating deduction of the great detective, you did this. This was you.
My dear fellow, that honor belongs to you.
He's not wrong.
Well, at least that means Inspector Gregson is no longer here. We can examine the crime scene in more detail now.
Yes, that's right. Ah, and of course.
What?
Have you forgotten what the inspector mentioned before? It was the landlord, Mr. Garadeb, who discovered Mr. Shamsphere.
Ah, Mr. John Garadub, yes.
I expect we could find him in his sitting room on the top floor as usual.
Right. We must remember to go and talk to him later then. Okay, let's have a look around first, though. Starting with you.
Oh, the poor man. So young to die. Do you suppose it was a very painful death? Being poisoned as he was?
I'm not
Possibly.
dead.
I don't know. All we can do now is hope that he'll be reborn to a better life.
Yes, I suppose you're right. I wonder. Do you think that putting our hands together in a Japanese prayer will help a British soul?
Sorry?
I made sure I had a reference at the ready for just an occasion as this actually.
Uh-huh.
This book is entitled The Beginner's Guide to Praying for the Departed, the British Way. I'll just reread it now. One moment.
There's quite a spine on that book, isn't there? Alright, this.
Jesus,
Oh.
Chiri, Sutosu.
I thought you were
I
about to
don't
sue
know.
me, so I was concerned.
Ah, one of the teacups that Mr. Shamsphere and his guests drank from last night. But don't go drinking from them, Mr. Naruhodo. There's bitter poison inside.
I'm not planning on drinking any, don't worry. Anyway, the cups are both empty.
That's true. So one was Mr. Shamsphere's, and the other must be the cup that Mr. Natsume was drinking from.
But Soseki-san wasn't poisoned, of course. Perhaps we should take these so that we can examine them in more detail later. A pair of teacups has been entered into the court record. Okay.
Oh, they even told which line had which.
Yeah. Hang on. Let's have another look at that. The teacups used by Mr. Shamsphere and Mr. Natsume. The one with the green line around the rim was Mr. Natsume's. Okay. Good tip. Okay. Oh, come on now. Yeah.
Look inside.
You wanna look at that?
Oh.
I think we saw something about that. This must be the cup that Mr. Shamsphere was drinking from then. It's stained on the inside.
Tea does that, I'm afraid. Even green tea.
Oh, really? I've never noticed before.
You've never noticed?
Well, I never leave it in the cup long enough to leave a mark. I like to gulp it down. Drink tea while it's hot. That's the Japanese way, isn't it?
Oh dear. So many people seem to have the wrong idea about our culture. And most of them are Japanese.
So the interesting point is how Soseki's cup is not filled.
Right.
This is the teacup from which Mr. Natsume was drinking.
Yes, unlike the other one, the inside of the cup is completely clean.
I suppose he must have drunk the contents before the tea had a chance to leave a mark.
I always gulp it down too.
Sorry, Mr. Naruhodo?
Well, if you just sip it little by little, it goes cold.
Clearly I shall have to instruct you in the proper way to take tea.
How do you eat
Oh,
cereal?
more?
How do you eat cereal? Tell me.
Okay.
4:30 p.m. Splash of milk.
What is cereal exactly? I'm not sure I follow.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So that's that. How about this? Look at these extravagant, bright costumes. Somehow they look out of place in this room with its grim, shady goings-on.
This one looks like a king's attire.
A king. I've always dreamt of being a king.
Oh, I think you'd be more suited for a feudal lord. A daimyo or such like.
That's quite a compliment.
Daimyo.
Daimyo, yeah.
Daimyo, yeah.
With a chonmage top knot? Every Japanese man wishes he had a chonmage. No, it's
Chonmage, maybe?
chonmage, yeah, probably.
Ah. Oh, you look wonderful with one. And you already have the sword.
Can you imagine what would happen if I walked around the streets of London with a chonmage and a sword? Well, I mean, you're already doing half
You
of that.
already have a sword.
Yeah.
But with both.
There's not much on the shelves, is there? It's just a wine glass and bottle. And both of them are cracked.
Yes.
No.
Not much use, are they? By the way, if we get through this game without me having drawn this sword to use it one time, I don't know what to... That's bullshit.
I was so
The
convinced
final-
there's gonna be a sword fight between freaking the Phantom guy and us. I was ready.
But-
I think we're on too friendly terms with him to do that now, but maybe a
Let's
different
piss
time.
him off!
Final battle with
Let's piss him
Ouchie. We cut off the top 9.
What's the matter?
Oh, I was just reminded of the Reaper, that's all. Speak of the devil.
Prosecutor Lord Van Zeeks?
Yes. He's so reckless with his wine glasses. I was thinking it's a waste and that he should donate them to the needy.
You can suggest it next time we meet. Yeah, I'm sure you'd love that. Oh yeah, what's this thing?
What's this?
It looks like part of an envelope, I think.
Yes, I think you may be right. Perhaps it's torn off when the letter was opened.
Is that significant?
Well, it's a little out of place, perhaps. When you look around the room, there's no sign of a letter. Or the rest of the envelope, in fact, is there?
Oh, she's right.
And yet here we have the torn off end of an envelope. It just strikes me as unusual.
I agree. Well, we better take this just in case. Mine now. Alright. But it's still on the ground. Oh, okay, fine. This. And here we have another disproportionately large machine. This looks like a meter of some kind.
Ah, this is the gas meter, I think. It seems that in this district, residents pay for gas as they use it with coins.
Ah, I see. Yes, now that you pointed it out, I can see that there's a slot just here that looks like it would take a coin. So you mean if you put a coin in here?
That's right. That will buy you 2 hours of gas for lights and heating.
So if you were a poor person with no money, you'd have to sleep in the freezing cold.
Yes. Or if you're a scatterbrain with no change because you forgot to exchange your money at the bank.
Thank goodness there's no meter in our office. What else we got? What else we got? Oh, lamp. This is a gas wall light, isn't it? It must be connected to a gas pipe in the wall. But you can see it.
Oh yeah. Gas lights, a gas stove. London really is a city of gas.
But now that I think about it, Mr. and Mrs. Garadub had an open fire on the top floor, didn't they?
Oh.
Oh yes, you're right. I don't recall seeing a gas stove up there.
Well, I much prefer a real fire anyway. It's so much cozier. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. What about over here?
Inside the house?
What is happening over here?
It's a stage.
This is some sort of makeshift stage, I think, isn't it?
Where does the audience sit, though, for the nightly Shakespeare performances? Shakespeare? Who's that?
Whoa.
Who is Shakespeare?
Who's Shakespeare?
Who the
Not
hell?
this guy.
So is Shakespeare doing Shakespeare plays?
I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
He's a big fan.
Actors
I'm
aspiring
sorry, I
to the
misread
great-
that. He's a big sham.
Actors aspiring to the great stage must practice their art, Mr. Nadahodo, with or without an audience. In fact, on a related note, perhaps you should set up a mock bench for the defense in your office.
Probably a lot of people who do that. What?
No, that's honestly not a bad idea.
And then you could practice your art every single day.
I'll think about it. If you promise to don a beard and play the role of the judge.
Oh,
Well,
interesting.
if that would help, if that would help you achieve your goal.
This I have to see.
Hmm.
Wouldn't she be better
Why
off
does
playing the role of the
everyone want her
prosecutor?
to put on drag?
There we go.
As we've seen from the outside, the window is completely bricked up. A vestige of the former window tax that Britons had to pay.
Britons? Britons?
Britons?
Yeah, Britons.
What strange
Britons.
things they used What strange things they used to tax in Great Britain? I mean, making people pay for the number of windows that they had on a property, it's extraordinary.
It's heartbreaking to think of the poor having to block up their windows just to avoid an unaffordable tax. Oh,
What is it, Mrs. Otta?
if you look closely, a number of the bricks are loose.
Oh.
Ooh.
Oh.
Oh. So,
Cheese!
that's not
Cheese!
cheese. Oh, yes, it looks as though an amateur has broken out a few of them just here. Was it Mr. Shamsphere who did it, I wonder? Being the lodger renting this room.
Ah, look at this, Mr. Naruhodo. On the outside, there's a little ledge. And there's something on it.
What, outside? Oh, come on. No, keep looking at that.
Ugh, it's so cold outside. You can feel it through this gap.
It did snow all last night. It would be cold. But more importantly, what is it on the ledge out there? What are those snow-covered lumps?
It's more bars of soap.
Soap? What are bars of soap doing lined up on the ledge outside the window?
I have no idea. But the pair of them look rather charming like that.
Okay. Still,
Okay.
that's very strange, isn't it? Bars of soap lined up outside the window? I think perhaps we should take one. There are two, after all. Take both.
Oh dear. I suppose we could. Oh, what's this? Look here at this bar of soap.
Ah,
Do you see? In the middle there. There's a patch that's a different color.
It's caramel.
It's sort of transparent, but
Eat it.
some sort of fancy design, I suppose. Only in Great Britain. Wax, maybe?
Mm,
it looks like the Hinamaru flag of Japan, doesn't it? How wonderful.
could be money.
Could be.
It's probably a very expensive brand.
Expensive? Then what's it doing in this ramshackle old room? Bar of soap has been added to the court record. Okay, we got some things to look at. Oh, never mind. We got things to do instead of that. Oh,
Looks like you're having a good snooping
no.
around, eh?
No, that's Gina. It's gotta be
Look
Gina.
at- Oh.
No?
What?
You know,
No,
Okay.
I don't think that's gonna be
Looks like
Gina.
having-
Okay,
Oh,
Looks
never
like
no.
you're
mind.
having a good snoop around, ain't ya?
All right, Inspector Gregson, back so soon? I want to see Gina.
And Gina's unrelated in this
Why
case
not good
entirely.
enough for After I threw that little Japanese fella in the clink, I went and reported this to the investigation division. In 5 minutes' time, this place will be cordoned off by the yard.
Oh, I see. Well, we better be leaving then.
Poor Mr. Natsume must be feeling very low. Being back in a prison cell again so soon.
I guess now that I think about it, we haven't had our big moment with Gina yet in this timeline.
Yeah, that's why I was like, but why
Yeah,
would
we don't really
talk
know
with
her
Gina?
very well at this point.
No. Also, in the future, it's 4 months after that big trial that we had. Do you think that she's still in prison, or do you think that maybe she's out by now?
I think she's in prison.
I have
Oh,
to
oh,
ask.
oh, 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 oh,
Oh,
oh,
Freaking
Stop it.
called it.
That's
I
really
was-
scary. That's really scary.
What?
That is
Why
actually
were you in this
terrifying.
room?
I'm sure we
I
should
was
probably
wondering why there was
go.
a.
And
I was
Pull out your
wondering why
sword
there was a
now.
Oh, is that
button.
you?
pull out your sword now.
Kill him! Kill the zombie! Now, before we continue, Jay, Gina is a defendant from the last game, in the last case.
The penny pincher?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
What's
The little
wrong, Mr. Naruhodo?
Wasn't. Oh my,
Duh!
God. Oh my god, that's really scary. Jesus.
Oh God.
Out brief candle, life's but a walking shadow, a poor player. No. But strutting threats upon this hour upon the stage, and then his head, and no more. Now, how soundeth the next part? It is a tale, told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing.
Gregson.
Indeed, a happy day.
Oh my god! Whoa. Walking Dead!
This bitch is iconic. Oh my god.
what is happening?
Is he still alive?
The fella isn't dead at all.
What was that
Also, Gregson,
nonsense he
you're so
was?
cultured.
What was that nonsense he was saying though?
I think. Yes, it was from William Shakespeare's Macbeth. A soliloquy from Act 5, Scene 5.
Shakespeare. Okay, Shakespeare does exist.
heard
It
of
wasn't a
that guy.
typo. So it was that the victim, Mr. William Shakespeare, came back to life. If the man had indeed been poisoned, it transpired that it hadn't killed him. He was taken by emergency carriage to a nearby hospital for treatment, and Inspector Gregson evicted us from the scene of the crime, whatever that now was. So Seki Natsume is still not involved in a murder. Still not.
So, a couple
Oh,
quick
well-
things.
Yes.
One, I was gonna say when we still thought he was actually dead, I was thinking, oh, I'm really sad because I was sure that he was gonna be like a on guard style villain at the end or something, but I guess not. But now it's possible.
It
There's
is
a chance.
possible. Well, it
Also, I'm worried that my existing knowledge of Shakespeare is gonna spoil me for what's happening next.
Probably not. Probably
Uh-oh.
not. But it
they
is.
usually like change up the formula if they reference the original play or something.
That's true, and it is February.
Also, I just realized Sasuke was actually involved in a murder in the next trial he's involved in.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Oh, yeah. Whatever do you think will happen now?
Good question. What a strange situation for Mr. Natsume. Arrested for murder, but then the victim comes back to life.
Again.
I think perhaps the victim was never dead in the first place. It seems very likely that Mr. Shamsphere did consume poison, as we deduced, but it was an accident, attempted suicide, or attempted murder. Until the truth can be established, I imagine the police will keep Mr. Natsume in custody.
I suppose so. Let's hope it doesn't come to anything more than a night in the cells. Oh, what's this? You looking a little bit like a bee, sir. What's that man doing over there? That's intended, right? The way that his bag is sticking
Oh,
out?
that's gotta be intended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Also,
little
his scarf
nightmare
looks like
wings.
his scarf looks like little
Yeah.
wings. Ah, that's
Little
great.
teeny tiny wings.
You're a bee. He looks like he's trying to see into Soseki-san's lodgings.
He's a bee.
Mm-hmm.
By all laws of aviation.
Is something wrong, Mr. Naruhodo?
Excuse me. Could we have a word? Bah.
Har. Ah! Pose and leave.
Oh, is he gone? He just ran off.
Smoke grenade.
I feel sure that I've seen that man somewhere before. Where was it?
I do too, but I don't remember. You shut up. You shut up. Do you two not remember meeting Shakespeare? Come on. All right. what do we
They
got
saw
here?
him once in
Oh.
the middle of the investigation.
Yeah, and how do you forget him? With the exception of the top floor where Mr. and Mrs. Garadub live, all the windows are bricked up.
Yes, that's because of an old window tax that was charged on the number of windows the property had. In order to pay less tax, the poorer members of society filled in as many of their windows.
But the tax has since been abolished, hasn't it? So the windows could be opened again, surely.
Unfortunately, it would appear that the residents of this district can't afford to pay to have the work done.
Yes, that is a sad state of affairs.
Especially for people like poor Mr. Natsume, who have to live all cooped up in a windowless room.
I suppose that's the price you pay for living in a very cheap accommodation.
It all seems rather pointless when you put it like that.
I guess so. Also, we have things to look at. Let's have a check. Alright,
Are
hi.
you saying that Britain treats its poor people like shit?
Wow.
No.
Weird. Bizarre. Whoever opened this letter didn't open with a letter opener or scissors, did they?
Yes, whoever opened it was clearly someone with an unrefined temperament.
And judging
And
from the...
judging
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
And judging from the angle of the rip here, the person in question must have been right-handed.
Making a lot of that mistake today. Oops. Miss Susato, I think perhaps someone's been reading too much of The Adventures of Herlock Sholmes.
You can never read too much of it, Mr. Naruhodo. Never!
Oh, wait, was there something I saw? Or was that just a trick of the light? Maybe that's nothing. Okay, that's it. Alright, what about the soap? Hi, what do you have going on? What? You're not red.
Oh?
Aha, the same thing.
Oh,
What is it, Mr. Naruhodo?
this bar of soap. When we first found it, I could have sworn there was some sort of round disc in this depression just here, a reddish one.
Yes, you're right. I remember it too. But now the depression is completely empty.
Where could the disc have gone? I wonder if it would have looked like this if I had looked at it immediately. The reddish medallion from the center has mysteriously vanished. That's bizarre. What happened? Did it melt or something?
I mean, it must have fallen out, right?
Or it was removed.
Maybe.
By the bee guy who's looking at the window where it was sitting.
But we took it before he would have had that chance.
I thought it was
You
second
looked
floor as
at it and
well.
you put it back, didn't you?
No.
Did you pick it up?
Yeah.
Yeah, we picked it up.
Oh.
There always seems to be a bicycle outside of Mr. Garrideb's residence. I read that bicycles are extremely popular all over Great Britain at the moment, in fact.
That one seems very warped though, especially the front wheel. Is that to
Wilson, fetch my penny farthing.
make it more of a challenge to ride, do you think?
No, I'm afraid that may be a result of the driver's incompetence. For the front wheel to be so badly warped, I'm afraid the rider may have been similarly afflicted.
Oh, then there's a good chance Mr. Natsume has been practicing on this bicycle, I think.
Oh dear. I fear you may be right.
Aw, poor Mr. Natsume. The Garrideb household and Mr. Natsume's lodgings are in a prominent position there on the corner. Sometimes when I look at the building, I can't help feeling that it's at a bit of a slant.
It does rather look as though it would collapse in even the smallest earthquake, doesn't it?
And isn't it supposed to be haunted as well? I think I might have a hunch as to why Soseki-san has such a hunched back. Poor guy. What else you got? Anything of interest? Oh, how's this coming along? London's blanketed in fog again today, and the sky is covered in cloud. I guess we went back in the past, so nothing would have changed. But if you look carefully in the distance, you can just make out the Crystal Tower being built.
Oh.
Ah, the Crystal Tower, yes. The centerpiece of the great exhibition that's to open in 6 months' time.
6 months, okay. Everyone's talking about the Great Exhibition of London at the moment, it seems.
Well, it's to be the largest event of its kind anywhere in the world, with technology and scientists from all over. I can't wait to see it for myself.
Do you think visiting students from the Far East like us will be granted entry?
The last great exhibition that was held in London had more than 6 million visitors, it seems. And this time, the British are determined to make an even bigger success to outdo the Paris Exposition.
I see. That's an incredible number of people. And with so many people expected to attend, we should easily be able to slip in unnoticed.
There's always the honest approach of buying tickets at the main entrance, Mr. Naruhodo.
No. Hi. Snowman.
Snowman!
Snowman!
Why has somebody built the snowman on some sort of pedestal, do you think? What?
That's not a pedestal, Mr. Naruhodo. That's part of the snowman's body.
Really, but it already has a perfectly good body.
Well, it's true that British snowmen are usually made from 2 balls of snow. Perhaps this is a foreigner.
And now we're looking at him as if he's strange. Poor man, I know how he feels.
If anything, it's Japanese and British 2-ball snowmen that are the strange ones, isn't it? After all, real people have 3 sections: head, torso, and legs.
Do you ever think that perhaps you think about things too much? Okay, what else?
I like
do
how
got?
we were just talking about the differences of snowmen in different regions the other day.
Yeah.
Thorax
I
and
don't-
abdomen.
Was I there for that?
Oh.
When was
I
this?
think
I
you
don't
were.
Is
think
that because
so.
Kirby?
I see.
It was because of
It was from
Kirby.
Kirby.
Yeah.
That's it.
Because
Just the
I think
snowman.
I noticed that the snowman and Kirby have 2 sections. I was like, huh.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because it's simpler.
Let's see here. What do we got?
Maybe.
We got.
But yeah, we also like do it with 3 in Norway.
Yeah. Westerners are playing on hard mode.
Mr. Shamspear, Briar Road, Mr. Garrett. Oh, the Garrett's room, prison. Okay, let's go to the Garrett's. Great. Does this look a little different? It's neater.
little.
It's neater. It's tidier.
It's clean.
Yeah.
Here we are again. The
Wait,
eccentric.
isn't
Oh,
Mrs. Garrett in jail?
Did that
yes.
happen? Yes, that
In
happened
prison?
2 days ago. Yes.
Oh.
I think part of it is I think the screen is more put back, so it doesn't quite cover the carpet, but it's still like covering the area.
Yeah, but also I think it was cleaned up a little bit. Here we are again, the eccentric landlord's eccentric top floor abode.
Is it time to be stuffy?
We're here because Mr. Garrideb's the one who discovered the incident this morning, don't forget.
Hey, bud.
Yes, yes. You chaps, yes.
Yes, good morning, sir.
Very good. Well, thank you for your cooperation in court yesterday.
You're gonna be very mad at me. It
That
was
yesterday.
it was quite a trial. As much for Mr. Garrideb as anyone, really.
Came straight back here after all that business of the Bailey yesterday. Didn't expect to wake up to more bally nonsense this morning. Oh,
I wonder if you wouldn't mind telling us exactly what happened, Mr. Garrideb.
yes, I suppose you'd like to know about all that dead loss of an actor chap in the ground floor room.
Those were exactly Inspector Gregson's words, weren't they? Okay. You don't have to get up.
it is, eh?
Alright, buddy, let's talk. Okay, that's not
Upper
talking.
lip. It's
That is
so
not talking.
stiff.
It's so stiff. It must have been a real shock for you this morning. I hear that you discovered what had happened.
Ah, well, that helpless actor chap rises at 5 o'clock sharp every morning without fail. But at 5:30 this morning, he still hadn't lit the gas. So I went down and knocked on his door, but no bally answer.
And that's when you broke into his room by kicking down the door.
Well, I call him that rum-looking Japanese chap to do the grunt work, of course.
Wasn't it a little
Good heavens, no.
Wasn't it a little premature to kick the door down? The man could have just overslept by half an hour.
That's very true, Mr. Naruhodo. If 30 minutes oversleeping warranted such behavior, I'd have to kick your door down every morning.
Uh-oh.
Well, you know, better to be safe than sorry and all that.
Do I have a door? My assumption was that you had a room and I just kind of slept in the main area. Huh. Is it just me, or is he avoiding our gaze now all of a sudden?
Except that it was a sorry situation indeed that you found on the far side of the door.
The victim's name is Mr. Shamspear, I believe. Is that right?
Yes, William Shamspear. To the ground floor room 3 months ago now.
And how would you describe him?
In a word, destitute.
Destitute.
Yes. Well, let's face it, the only redeeming feature of that room is the cheap rent. Anyone wanting to live in a place like that is either broke or has a bally screw loose.
So hard to choose which category Saseki-san would fall into.
Or both.
Hmm.
Mr. Naruhodo, that's a little rude.
That was in my head.
Wait.
Oh.
People can read our thoughts. Yay!
Yay.
Yay!
We whisper think.
He was doing research as well.
Research into what?
Shakespeare, of course. Shakespeare. I read a few plays of the old bard myself, you know. Romeo and Hamlet and all that. Those two lovers.
Yes. William Shakespeare is England's most highly regarded classical playwright and author. He's known as Sao in Japanese, as you know, and many of his works have already been translated.
Didn't know that. It seems incredible that Shakespeare was shortened to Sao, though. Someone was too heavy-handed there. There were a lot of costumes in the victim's room, actually, weren't there?
Of course, Mr. Natsume is a scholar of English literature as well. I imagine he and Mr. Shamsphere would have had much in common.
Shakespeare interpretation disagreement leads to shocking murder. Let's hope it's not that.
Oh god. Mr. Naruhodo, really, how rude.
More. After Mr. Natsume's trial yesterday, you came straight back here, I believe, didn't you? Did you notice
Honestly,
anything?
if a Shakespeare interpret... Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt.
That's alright, what were you saying?
Just, I wouldn't be surprised if a real-world Shakespeare interpretation disagreement turned into murder.
Yeah, it's probably happened. Did you notice anything strange between then and this morning?
Well, now, must have been about 6 in the evening by the time I got home. Snow was coming down rather heavily, as I remember, and it was completely dark already. That failed actor chap was out at the time.
Mr. Garadeb noticed that there was no light from his room or something, I suppose.
Couldn't summon the energy for anything much, so I just sat in front of the fire up here. It was after 8 before Shamsphere got back, and the chap was up until past 1 in the morning, I'll have you know. Suppose he met his end sometime after that. I was asleep by then, so I'm rather in the dark there.
Well, thank you. That was very illuminating. Is everything alright, Mrs. Otto?
Well, I was just thinking it's a little strange, that's all. Mr. Garadeb, you were up here in your room all evening, if I've understood correctly.
Not a big fan of stairs. Not with this blasted leg.
Then, how is it that you seem to know? The precise movements of your tenant on the ground floor, I mean.
That's a very good point. I can't imagine that you could hear noises from the ground floor all the way up here. Does this old man like to spy on his tenants? Is that it?
I say, I know what you're thinking, and it's a bally outrage. I'm ex-military, don't you know?
Are you snapping your pipe in half again?
Don't do that.
I don't go around spying on my tenants. Why would I?
Then, how did you know, Mr. Garadeb?
It's the gas woman. The gas tells me everything. It whispers into my ear. Tells me secrets of the world.
Oh, the gas.
All hail the gas.
No gas.
Don't inhale the gas.
I could never kill everyone. No, Dolan, no. What on earth do
Don't
you
believe
mean?
their lies.
What do you mean, sir? How can the gas tell you anything, let alone everything?
Well, as you're probably aware, the gas was supplied to the building by pipes. I know a thing or two about pipes, you see.
I see. Yes, I'd more or less worked that out.
Every room in the building is connected by a single pipe to the gas main outside. And the gas company supplies gas to properties via the main.
Yes, I understand that too.
Let me see if I can explain. Let's say I was to light the gas lamps up here. What do you suppose would happen?
Well, obviously the room would get brighter.
Exactly. But at the same time, the lights in all the other rooms of the house would dim for a moment.
What? They dim? Why?
Perhaps it's because when you light a gas lamp, it briefly uses more gas than usual. And that reduces the amount of gas in the pipe for other lamps that are connected to it. That might explain why the other lamps dim momentarily, mightn't it?
Yes, of course, because everything's connected to a single supply pipe. Okay.
Is that supposed to happen, though? It sounds rather undesirable.
Jolly good point. Fact is, the gas company's pipes in these parts are pretty hopeless, long worn out, and barely got any gas in them to start with. The opposite's also true, of course. Extinguish the lamps up here and they glow brighter in the rest of the house.
Ah, right, I see. So, by watching the flickering of lamps in one room, you can determine what's happening elsewhere.
You've got it.
See.
Oh, of course. Because when people come back home in the evening, and just before they go to sleep at night, what they're guaranteed to do is either light or put out their lamps and fires.
Clever.
In point of fact, the room on the ground floor and the one above it use slightly different amounts of gas. By watching the lights in here closely, I can work out almost exactly what's going on in the whole house.
Wow. Alright.
Gosh, that's fascinating, Mr. Garadeb. Absolutely fascinating.
I'm extremely bored, you see. Oh well, nothing to it really.
And I can't really see that it's going to help us with the case either. What I'd like to know is why Mr. Garadeb is so interested in what his tenants are up to in the first place. I feel like there's more to it than idle curiosity.
I miss my wife, Naruhodo.
Oh, I'm sorry, buddy.
Aw.
Well, we've done as much investigating here as we can, I think. Perhaps we ought to go to the prison and speak with Mr. Natsume again.
A good idea.
I miss her a lot.
Oh.
I don't feel like Ark is getting the quotes.
I don't. I guess not, because you guys keep saying that. It's my wife. What's the problem?
It's from the Sonic live dub.
Okay, yeah, I haven't seen it. I guess. All right, we know what that
the
screen
one
is
that
hiding
scared
now.
me. Right.
Sonic Adventure 2.
Yeah.
The aftermath of the fiery altercation the other day.
You don't suppose I'll be able to clear that mess up for some time now?
Oh dear. This must be a very difficult situation for you.
I'll say. People talk about twists of fate and whatnot. But this is a twist and a half. A rotten show all round.
He's clearly struggling with everything that's happened. What else do you have? Oh, yeah. Ah, damn it. No, I missed. I missed. The shells? Yeah. Ah, yes, those enormous mortar shells. It's quite something seeing them up close, isn't it?
Didn't you say something about firing them into the barracks, Mr. Garadeb?
You remember, do you? Just a little mishap that occurred during training one day. What are you doing firing on your own men? The captain bellowed at me.
I'm not surprised. A little mishap doesn't really do it justice, does it?
Well, one has is a little incident when one's a hot-headed young private. Ah, yes. Those were the days. Sit down and let me talk about it for several hours.
Nah, I'm alright. Besides, I should put some... perhaps I should put some evidence that resulted from one of my little mishaps on display.
No.
Oh, does the great lawyer, like the great detective, want to exhibit some trophies of his finest moments?
I mean, you know...
That's a military uniform, isn't it, Mr. Garadeb?
Well, ceremonial garb, yes. Been hanging on the wall ever since my retirement bash. Not an active service now, you know. Doesn't mean much to me anymore. You could have the whole thing if you wanted it.
Well, it might suit Lord Van Zeeks, perhaps. An overly ostentatious outfit like this could be just what he needs.
Very tactful, Mr. Zato. Very tactful indeed. Good. There's a single apron drawing on that enormous cannon-shaped clothes horse. Look, it's a cannon!
No, Mr. Naruhodo. That's a real cannon.
I knew that. I was just testing you. Yeah.
Piece of history, that is. Seen plenty of action on the battlefield, I can tell you. Yes. Now the old girl and I are just enjoying peace and quiet of retirement together. Isn't that right, dear? Why don't you put on the dress I bought you?
Oh, God.
You're already carrying it. My dear.
It's just draped over you like all useless.
You like that one, huh?
Saucy nutmeg.
Saucy nutmeg.
Jay's making me laugh.
Yeah, that's all right. Oh, shut up.
You got him giggling.
And of course, it'd come in handy if the enemy decided to launch an attack again.
Is there a war going on that I don't know about? Okay. got out of that.
Always. This is Britain, you see.
Oh, a copy of Rand's magazine. The Adventures of Herlock Sholmes is being read all over London. Isn't it wonderful?
Naturally, one asks oneself if such a singular detective could really exist. But having met the chap, it's undeniable. He is most certainly singular. Singularly dangerous.
That's genuine public opinion for you, Mrs. Sato. Perhaps it should be reflected in the stories.
Make no mistake, Mr. Naruhodo. I intend to snuff out the sort of public opinion we just heard personally.
I'm starting to see where Mr. Sholmes' untainted reputation comes from now. Alright.
Rabbit fanbase?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Hello. That's an impressive collection of cakes on that fancy silver cake stand there.
I feel sure that it was full of cakes when we first investigated in here as well.
Yes, quite right. I haven't touched it since. Haven't done much at all, really, since it all happened. Time's rather stood still for me, you know.
Oh,
Time has stood still. Now that's an interesting phrase. I might be able to use that excuse when I'm next supposed to be tidying the office.
you could just tidy up, Mr. Naruhodo.
But I'm bad.
Impossible.
I'm bad at it. These shelves look like they've been completely torn apart by a wild beast. Clean your room, Naruhodo.
Reminds me of the Battle of Maiwan, don't you know?
Ah, the experiences of a seasoned veteran.
Enemy had us surrounded on all sides. We really thought we were done for, the whole bally company. We were taking a real pounding from the cannons, so all we could do was run for our lives.
Oh, I thought that story was going in a different direction.
Well, the whole experience taught me one thing, I can tell you. When you're done for, you're really done for.
That's not what a lawyer who often finds himself under fire wants to hear. That might have been it. No, we're not done. There's a good view over the wintry East End from up there. It's an impressively gray scene. There's really nothing comparable in Japan. And down below, Briar Road, partly blanketed in snow.
And the pavement where poor Mrs. Green was struck in the back by that knife.
Thinking about it, this is the only room in this building that actually has a window to the outside world. Sometimes Great Britain really does seem like a strange land, doesn't it?
I suppose all foreign cultures seem strange at first. Imagine how an Englishman would feel on arriving in Japan and seeing people with the chonmage top knot.
Well, that's a good point. Now are we done? I think maybe now we're done. Yeah, we're done. Okay, I'm leaving you alone now, Mr. Garrideb. Gotta go see what Mr. Natsume's up to.
Why don't you put on that
You're
dress I bought
so
you?
bad at
Oh,
this.
no.
So bad. Oh, February.
Look, Mr. Naruhodo. Mr. Natsume, have the police finished questioning you now?
Look, I'm shooting this at all! That's why!
Oh, yes?
Is he? Tell me! Is he a ghost? Is he here to haunt me?
Let me guess. You're talking about Mr. Sholmes.
He actually calls himself a great detective, Mr. Natsume, not a ghost.
But by his diabolical deductions, they're not of this world. They've left me. Cursed! I'm cursed, I tell you!
Well, that sort of hurts.
Credit where credit is due, Mr. Naruhodo. You were heavily involved in the deduction, too.
Yes, moving on. We have some wonderful news.
Oh?
The victim that we all thought was dead has come back to life again.
Oh.
Now, in the absolutely worst case, you could only be tried for attempted murder. That's great, isn't it, Mr. Natsume?
It didn't work.
It's terrible!
Oh,
I'm stuck in the cell, suffering for some silly, wrong end of the stick!
It's terrible. If he's alive, he can talk.
You didn't you? Confess! You're a killer! Why the mustache? Constant questions!
I'm sorry to hear that.
Oh, God, selfish! Shush! Make up your minds! Are you dead or alive? If you were going to come back to life, why bother dying? Wiggly wishy-washy William!
Well, it seems likely that Mr. Shamsphere was never actually dead in the first place.
Yes, that might make sense. And I'm pleased that he's alive, of course.
But
Oh, lively debate last night was much fun. I'd be sad to think it was our last.
Oh.
Oh, they're
Oh.
friends.
Oops.
Mr. Natsume, does this mean that you did see the victim last night? You met with Mr. Shamsphere, didn't you?
I'll say another word! I demand to have my lawyer present!
But
well.
who do you think I am?
Good instinct.
Please, Mr. Natsume, we need to hear your side of the story.
Why am I cursed like this?
All right, buddy, let's talk. Can you tell us exactly what happened last night then, Mr. Natsume?
There's nothing to tell! But, Mr. Naruto Esquire, I am eternally grateful for you helping me with an accursed case yesterday.
The case that saw poor Miss Green hospitalized after she ended up with a knife in her back.
It's hard to believe that was only yesterday. It feels like an entire video game ago.
I know.
Oh, doesn't it? After the trial was over, I trudged my weary way back to my lowly lodgings. And that evening at past 9, I visited Mr. Shamsphere.
So you did go to the victim's room then?
As we feared.
I didn't do anything wrong! I never did this wrong before! It was the first time!
Well then, what made you decide to go?
I bumped into him when I arrived back at the house. We got to chatting and it developed into a discussion. But he had to go out, so I bade him farewell.
That ties in with what Mr. Garrett had said, that the victim went out and came back after 8.
So we met again later that evening, around 9 or just after. Then I took him some nice tea I'd brewed as a gift.
So it was you who brought the tea that had been clearly drunk at the scene then?
And I suppose you were discussing the works of Shakespeare, were you?
Yes, that's right. That is exactly right, yes. Romeo and Juliet! Who was the stronger? Who was it life was debate?
Who would win in a fight, Romeo or Juliet?
Okay, I have some thoughts on this.
Nope, passing by.
Who
No.
died first? Romeo did kill a guy. So there's-
True. He has the thirst for murder.
Although, in Juliet's defense, if I'm remembering right, Romeo poisoned himself at the end like a bitch,
How much
and
is left of
Juliet
the string?
stabbed herself, which is way more metal.
Mm.
True.
So, I could be wrong about that. Correct me in the chat if I'm mixing that up.
No, that sounds correct.
Such a stimulating subject! Shakespeare!
Oh yeah, didn't Romeo think she poisoned herself, so he did it too, and then
Yeah.
Juliet
Yeah.
woke up and was like, "Ah, shit, stab time."
Ah, shit, stab time.
Shit.
And the debate became very heated, so you slipped poisoned into Mr. Shamspeare's tea.
No! No, not at all!
But also, of course, it was horrible and
Juliet,
tragic and
why?
bad, so...
Mhm.
And when I left his room, the flamboyant fellow was in a fighting fit! I swear! Categorically!
Okay, now, real quick, I actually just realized... Oh, never mind, I was going to try and examine the room, but I guess I can't. Okay.
No.
Not allowed.
Mr. Natsume, you often say the same thing about yourself, I've noticed. That you have a cursed existence.
I'm sure I've mentioned this to you before, but I've been here in Great Britain for a year now, and in that time I've learned that it's no place for me.
It can be very trying to live in a foreign land and adapt to the ways of another culture.
There are foreigners everywhere I look, and they all stare at me. They all laugh. That's the impression I got whenever I go out. It makes me so scared to leave my room. Which is why I've never become or I became a recluse. But even in my room, I find no respite from my fears. So I moved more times than I can remember. Then 1 week ago, I moved into Briar Boar.
Briarwood. Yep. But why? I mean, why did you choose that place? It doesn't seem very comfortable.
Because the rent is cheap. I have so little money, it spoke to me. You can afford this.
The rent?
Obviously, there's a reason why it's so cheap. Because the room is cursed.
Cursed. Cursed how?
The previous occupant, the man who lived there before I took the room, died there.
New info.
Oh no!
He was only a young man, but one morning he was found dead and no one can explain why.
Surely no one would want to live in a room with a history like that.
I didn't. When the letting agent recommended the place, I wavered. But I want books, and books cost money! A horrible history is a small price to pay! When I realized it would mean I could buy more books, I signed the lease like lightning,
Brave or
even if it was frightening.
or Blinker?
But after I moved in, I soon came to realize what I had done. I realized how horrible that room's history really was.
Gosh, was it really so awful?
Purple curtains.
More about that? More about that.
how did the room's horrible history affect you, Mr. Natsume? What happened?
At first, it was just a feeling. The feeling of a beady eyes burrowing into my back, watching me.
Do you think that might have just been your mind playing tricks on you?
No, no, no! My mind doesn't know any tricks. It was someone else.
I don't have anything up in there, man.
It's been one long nightmare ever since I was given the keys to the place.
A nightmare? You've been having bad dreams, you mean?
All the sounds or souls who died in that room. I lean over me in my sleep and tried to strangle me.
That really is horrible.
And we all agree it's his cat, right?
Yes.
And now, come to think of it, it happened last night too. The very same night that Mr. Shamspear was writhing in agony from the poison in his body. I was on the verge of being suffocated silently by those miserable spirits in my room.
You simply must move out of that room as soon as possible.
I mean, he's trying to move out of the country as soon as possible.
Yes, you're right. I know it. And that is why I'm already searching for the next room with the history to call home. In Japan.
I think perhaps you should try to avoid accommodation with any kind of history at all. Otherwise, I'm scared that you yourself may become history.
Whew, Suzoto-san knows how to make the man listen.
Of course. My lord of the manor is worried about the curse on my room as well.
You mean Mr. Gyarados?
Yes. He knows that if people keep dying there, they'll be able to rent it out again.
Well, that's true. I, for one, wouldn't want to go near the place.
Ah, perhaps. That may explain why the landlord pays so much attention to the gas and lamps and his tenants' movements.
You mean because he's worried about their well-being? He does seem to have an unusually keen interest in the amount of gas in the pipes. There must be a reason why he keeps such close tabs on the occupants of his let rooms.
What do you mean he pays so much attention to the gas lamps?
Oh dear, no, it's nothing to do with you, Mr. Natsume. Please, forget I said anything.
I mean, there's no harm in letting him know about that, is there?
Don't think so.
Oh, now you're talking about me behind my back as well.
What's important is that Mr. Shamspear isn't in fact dead at all. Once he's come around and he's able to tell us what's happened, we'll be able to get you released.
Yes, please. Oh, I do hope you're right.
Baffleaf?
I would have guessed.
I mean, I'll summon the voice if you want it.
Excuse me?
Go for it.
Let's see who it is.
Excuse me.
No.
Oh.
This is I.
Excuse me. Oh, stop, that Bobby.
Get out of here, Baldy. Get out of here. Inspector Gregson.
I couldn't help over here on what you were just saying. And on that note, I have some good news and some bad news.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
Took you long enough. Which do you want first, the fish or the chips?
The chips.
Always, every time, the bad news comes first.
This again.
When hope is all you have, hold on to it. It's my guiding principle.
Right, well, in that case, good news it is.
That jerk.
So, but it's just a lot easier to explain everything that way.
Then
Don't know why I even asked you.
Then why did you ask me my preference?
As you might have heard, it's good. The victim, Mr. Shamspear was just unconscious. He's come round now.
Yes, we saw it happen in all of its terrifying glory. It was very scary.
Bruh, it's really distracting when you're eating while you're talking. Please stop it. Please don't talk with your mouth full. He's still being treated by the doctors, but we've managed to get a written statement from him already.
Oh, isn't that wonderful, Mr. Natsume?
Oh, thank goodness! It's all over then! I can leave this sombre cell!
Yeah, sorry, no. That's not on the cards.
That...
Why ever not, Inspector?
Mr. Shamspear has implicated someone as being responsible for what happened last night.
Implicated someone.
Oh dear.
You told me!
I'm sorry to say I do, yes. He's pointing the finger at you, Mr. Natsume. Let's see here. Oh, I am a choky. By sweet poison that he seeketh to end my life. That wicked caitiff, Saseki Natsume.
No.
So I'm afraid you'll be appearing in court as planned. You'll be wanting to make the necessary preparations.
Is that a new face? Might be.
Might be.
And so, once again, Soseki-san found himself having to take the dock in the Old Bailey. Whether his room was haunted or whether he was just terribly unlucky, I knew I had no choice. The following day, I would represent him in court and do my utmost to break the curse that blighted him.
Ryunosuke, don't complain. This guy's putting your kids through college.
You think this guy's paying me?
I literally had one line during this entire 1.5 hours.
I'm sorry, Sam.
It's fine. I'm about to become Van Seeks. It's fine.
True. That's very
That's
true.
true.
I
You're
thought
gonna
that
be
your
involved?
I thought your Bumblebee bro was going to stick around a little bit longer. Oh,
Me
no.
too.
Bro.
I was like, oh hey, my line. Ah.
Sometimes referred to as a
Bumble
Bumble bro, you know?
Hey,
It's February.
that Old Bailey.
That Old Bailey, this place always makes me feel a little strange. I seem to get chills down my spine and break out in a nervous sweat all at the same time. Well, I did think I'd be back here. I didn't think I'd be back here so soon. Soseki.
It's my line! Good morning!
Oh, yes, good morning, Mr. Natsume.
It was only 2 days ago that I was declared not guilty here.
Yes, we somehow managed to prove he didn't stab Miss Green in the back.
But Alice! Another morning, another matter, and here I am again in this hellhole!
You want them to put, like, mixed nuts in that scale on the table? I'm with ya. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that's good.
I didn't want to interrupt, so I typed it, but yes, and there's a game that you have to, like, take one from one cup and then the next nut from the other to keep them balanced.
Sure, sure. Just to keep you entertained before you go on trial.
Yeah.
It's important.
Can't keep coming to court!
I'm beginning to think he's right. It really does seem as though he's cursed.
Mr. Naruhodo, I'm afraid I have some bad news. Oh! Mr. Natsume, good morning.
Yes, morning.
So, here we are again.
Yes, again.
So what's the news?
This is a Mrs. Mikatoa Esquires! What is the bad news?
Oh dear. You heard, did you?
If you come in shout in top of your voice, people can't help but hearing what you say!
Oh, I'm terribly sorry.
You've done nothing wrong, Mr. Sato. Now, what is it?
Well, it seems the prosecution in today's trial
Uh-oh.
will be led by Lord Barak Van Zeeks.
Did you think it was going to be somebody else there for a second?
No.
Van Zeeks.
Was it
No,
always
no.
Barrock?
I don't
I think
remember if it was Barrock.
I think it was Barrack.
I thought it was Baron.
The so-called Reaper of the Bailey, the most legendary prosecutor in the land. In the trial 2 days ago, he pursued Soseki-san and I relentlessly. Was that our first time meeting him? No.
no.
No, it was our second.
Doing
Second.
the King K. Rool pose?
Of course, by the skin of our teeth, we managed to pull through, but still.
Perhaps Mr. Natsume's acquittal in the last trial wasn't the end of the matter. After all,
Yes, I know what you're thinking. The legend of the Reaper that says, nothing can save a person in the dock when Lord Van Zeeks is the prosecutor.
Oh no!
that even if that person is not found guilty, the accused will meet a mysterious end one way or another.
And we've experienced it firsthand. A man we successfully defended met the most terrifying end after his acquittal, right here in the Old Bailey. I mean, okay, but if Soseki dies in Japan and they still blame it on this, I call nonsense.
Oh, do I have to put up with this ice-cold eyes boring into my soul again? Curse by evil spirits, and now by the Reaper! Pair of petrifying perils, potentially!
Well, if it's potentially, at least you appear to have hope, Mr. Natsume.
Maybe you'll go home and be a famous author.
Lock them, shouldn't Mr. Naruhodo, Esquire!
But yes,
I'm innocent, you have to believe me! You, more than anyone now!
don't worry. I'll be your steadfast ally every step of the way in this battle. I promise.
I'll be your ally.
Yeah, and this promises to be a hard battle, I fear. Nah, it's only case 2. We got it.
Well, the trial is scheduled to begin shortly. We should move into the courtroom.
Let's go.
Oh, yes, I forgot to say. I'm afraid he won't be able to make it. Mr. Sholmes, I mean.
Were we expecting him to? That's probably for the best.
Oh,
If he were here, I might be tempted to rely on his help. And that could be seen as a weakness. If Lord Van Zeeks were to notice, he'd prey on it mercilessly. At least that's my gut feeling.
Mr. Naruhodo.
You're right! Yes, you're so right! I'm so glad he's not here! Oh, well said, locked-up student Mr. Naruhodo, Esquire! Well said!
I swear on the sword at my side and on the spirit of Kazuma that it harbors. I'll show him what a Japanese lawyer can do. I'll set you free with honor.
Who's Kazuma?
Oh, yes.
Who's Kazuma? Let me tell you a tale. It's February. Oh. Oh, who today? Who today? I'm not looking at it. At the
Oh, who
moment.
today? Let me get it up here.
Yeah, go for
Real
it.
quick.
What are we on?
We are on chapter
Miss
2, so
Q.
it is.
Oh, shit, it's me.
Lunar.
Ah.
It's you!
In the name of Her Majesty and the Queen. No, that's not right. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session.
Love it.
I now call upon the counsels for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed.
The prosecution is ready.
The defense is ready, my lord.
Readiness for the trial, my learned Nipponese friend, is not what the defense needs. What you need is readiness for your inevitable defeat.
It's not just in my imagination, it's really there. Lord Van Zeeks has such an animosity towards us Japanese for some reason. Yeah, but maybe after this flashback is done, that'll be the end of it.
It was some time ago now that he first became known as the Reaper of the Paley, I believe. These past few years, he hasn't appeared in court at all.
Yet now he's back in the courtroom. Though for some reason, only when I'm defending. This Reaper, with his curious disdain for us Japanese, is a prosecutor shrouded in mystery. Still, this isn't the time to be pondering that. I have to concentrate on Soseki-san's trial.
Furthermore, I now call upon the 6 ladies and the gentlemen of the jury. You have been chosen at random to represent the will of the people in this trial. Are you ready to fulfill your duty?
Random.
Hello. Random.
You're back.
Absolutely. I had a feeling this larrikin wasn't innocent before.
You jerk. You!
Squint.
Squint!
Squid.
No longer
This
reason to
lady has
squint
done
for that
nothing
reason.
wrong.
Well,
I don't know about that.
but she's not the one you think it is.
I guess
what it was.
I guess now it's impossible for her to be that.
We've now
Giselle
met
Brett.
every single person who lives in all of London.
I must say that I feel especially ruthless on days when my hat refuses to sit right.
Okay.
You!
Yeah,
Was that me?
that was you. Yeah.
Oh, well, I'd rather like how you're wearing your hat. I think it's ruthless as it looks. It's very fetching, actually.
Sap's got a
Who are
line.
you?
Yay! Yeah, who's this person?
Yay!
Whoa! Wow.
Ooh, what are you
This
new?
is casted as me, but that means I technically have 4 characters standing in this room right now.
That's fine.
Let's give it a shot and see if perhaps we feel like changing things later.
Okay.
I need to be somewhere at 10 o'clock. I have a very important meeting. Let's make this quick.
If any of these characters should change, I'm thinking it's the judge. I couldn't agree more. I need to take home 5 bob tonight, or the missus will go through the roof. Is this my first time meeting that character? I think it would be.
No, second. Wasn't he in the first part of this trial as well? Like the 4 other Soseki trial?
Yes, you're correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, may the Lord show us all the light here and lead his flock to a righteous verdict. I am a doctor.
You are. Yes.
I am a doctor.
Now, I'm already curious. Art's character in the jury, is he gonna be relevant with how the window is not properly bricked up?
It's possible. You know, never know. I do a lot of work.
Why would he care?
Also, this is one of my favorite voices in this franchise. I like it a lot.
The British jury system is so very different from our own, isn't it? It's quite extraordinary to think that the power of the judgment is in the hands of 6 members of the public.
You thought that Ark was squinting at her because she was just being racist and you had no idea she thought she was being Giselle. No, I thought that Giselle Brett had escaped prison and was back in England and that it was inevitable that somebody was lying in wait to reveal that they were Giselle Brett the whole time. I was waiting for it. It was all I was thinking about the whole last game.
Yeah, whenever you were explaining, like, oh yeah, it's because of what Gomez said, and
No.
then you were like, Giselle Brett, I was like, what?
Also, she's racist and I hate that.
And the judge can only pass sentence when all jurors are in agreement about the defendant's guilt.
6 citizens of London chosen at random, or at least that's the idea.
The prosecution would then draw attention to the fact that the accused was on trial here but 2 days ago. Accordingly, where possible, the same jurors have been asked to return for duty today.
Why?
They were
Very
relevant.
well. Let us commence the trial.
That's a weird rule. It's a different crime.
Lord Van
What?
Zeeks, your opening statement, please.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, it is not the intent of the prosecution to cast doubt over your past decision. However, the innocent verdict afforded to this eccentric Nipponese before has had dire consequences. Did the accused repent for his wrongdoing in that affair? Far from it. Instead, he used his freedom to perpetrate. Perpetrate, not prayer. Got it. A most blood-curdling crime. Namely, that of the attempted murder of his neighboring lodger, an innocent Englishman. To explain the circumstances of the crime, the prosecution calls its first witnesses to the stand. Keep off!
That's fast.
Oh no.
The detective responsible for investigating the scene and the accused himself.
All right. I guess there isn't really anybody else except Gyarados.
Munch, munch.
Witnesses, your name and occupations, please.
Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector at Scotland Yard's Homicide Division.
Ah! Atsuki Natsume from the Empire of Japan. My government ordered me to come here as a student to study your language and culture. And kill 2 people.
No.
No.
Oh, sorry.
Lunar?
Oh,
Lunar.
Mr. Natsume.
You're not used to being the judge, are you?
I'm not.
Yes, my lord, sir.
I'm quite sure I'm not mistaken. That you swore an oath never to set foot in my courtroom again.
He didn't do anything.
But it did
I
set foot in
remember it as if it were yesterday.
The day before, in fact, my lord. But close enough.
Believe me, this is the last place I wanted to be.
Inspector, let's hear from you first. Explain the case for the court.
Right you are, sir. Right. The incident occurred at the Gerardep household, where the defendant has lodgings. In the ground floor room of the victim, Mr. William Shamspeare, the defendant has already admitted to visiting the victim on the night in question. Mr. Shamspeare collapsed in his room as a result of poisoning by strychnine.
Oh yeah.
Strychnine. Am I saying that right?
Strychnine, I think. Yeah, that was right.
Strychnine?
Yeah. I've heard that before.
Brilliant. He was found the following morning when the landlord, suspecting something was wrong, broke down the door.
Ice.
789.
This means, I presume, that the door to the victim's room was locked by the time of the incident.
Correct, my lord. It was locked from the inside, making entry to or exit from the room impossible.
Oh boy.
Although the victim, Mr. Shamspeare, lives to tell the tale. He very nearly didn't. Man was halfway to heaven when we first found him.
Okay, so what if somebody pulled the bricks out from the window and with a squirt gun
Yeah.
shot the poison
No!
into the teacup?
That is exactly what I just thought of.
I was the first officer on the scene, my lord. And I have a photographic print here that I took at the time to show how it looked.
Hmm?
Yes, a chilling scene indeed. The man looks very much deceased.
I don't think we saw that puddle before. That wasn't immediately
Yeah, me
obvious.
neither.
Hmm,
Oh yeah.
So it's important, is what you're saying.
probably.
Oh, it could be a gas leak. That's right. Everyone present believed that's exactly what it was.
Very well. I shall accept this photographic print as evidence for the court.
Crime scene photograph has been entered into the court record.
Now then, Mr. Natsume.
Yes! Yes!
As the defendant, do you have anything to say to this at this juncture?
They're haunted! Haunted by evil spirits!
Good gracious! What's haunted?
My logics! There's been a whole series of strange happenings in my logics! The tenant before me died in mysterious circumstances! Oh, it was stabbed by no one in the street outside! My neighbor was poisoned! And me! What about me? I've been killed countless times!
Killed, Mr. Natsume? How?
Even on that fateful night it happened, when I returned to my Shakespeare's room.
From Shakespeare's room.
It's mine too now.
You kill it, you own it?
I can't get the room, yes.
Oh, I see.
I lit my gas stove and climbed into bed, but before long, the stove went out and somebody tried to kill me.
You must always extinguish all fires before retiring for the night, Mr. Natsume.
But it's so cold! My runny nose would freeze!
So wait, if that happens when the fire goes out, is it implied that the cat is going for his face because it's warm?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Hmm.
The point is, I did not poison my neighbor. Oh, why am I being accused of this? Why is my existence so cursed?
Thank you, witnesses. I believe I have a reasonably clear picture of the events.
If I could raise one more point, my lord. One more conclusive point.
Conclusive? Go on.
Fortunately, the victim, Mr. Shamspeare, has regained consciousness after his ordeal. And he has named the true culprit. The poison consumed by the victim was administered in a cup of tea that he drank on the night in question. Tea, my lord, that was brought to the victim's room by the accused.
The accused? Good grief!
Or did he brew the tea?
Ooh.
Order, order!
Yes, that's the crux of this whole case. If Soseki-san is innocent, then why? Why has the victim accused him?
Well, Mr. Natsume, what do you have to say to this accusation?
That evening, yes, I did take some freshly brewed tea with me when I visited Mr. Shamspeare's room. As a
Guilty.
gift. It's a gift. The public water pump outside always freezes at night, so I bought bottled water specifically to make it. And this is the result. Never will I touch tea again. Never!
The public pump was frozen, you say?
That's not information we've heard before. That will do, thank you. Now, according to our laws, the defense must have the opportunity to cross-examine the witnesses at least once. Therefore, I call upon the witnesses now for a formal testimony. I presume the prosecution has no objection?
None whatsoever, my lord.
Good. Then you will give your account of the events on the night in question to the court now.
Yes! Yes, my lord!
Alright. That catastrophic night.
It was around 9 o'clock that evening when I visited my neighbor and I took some tea with me as a gift. We had a heated liberal debate over a nice hot drink, after which I went back to my room at around 11. Why was my tea so completely harmless? He couldn't have had locked the door behind me otherwise, could he?
Strychnine takes some time to have an effect on the body. People don't kill over immediately after taking it. The victim would have been perfectly able to lock the door after his guest left. The argument still stands.
Yes, I see. It all seems relatively straightforward. Excuse me, but that testimony does raise one other crucial point, I think. Mr. Natsume claims his tea to have been harmless. Presumably, though. The teacups have been examined for traces of poison, haven't they?
Why didn't I think of that?
Well, as it happens, no, we haven't been able to. Probably should have
Did
done that
I
before.
hear
this
you
whole,
correctly, Inspector? Scotland Yard has failed to examine the suspect's substance.
Yeah, we got distracted by a cat.
Oh, that's fair.
The victim's cat.
How could you have overlooked something so important? Isn't that the first thing you should have done?
My learned Nipponese friend is falsely incensed.
Eh.
The inspectors at Scotland Yard was unable to examine the tea. Not that it was overlooked.
Unable? Why?
It's simple enough. There was none left, not a drop.
I don't know if I thought. What? Can't you just? Shouldn't there still be traces? Come on.
Someone must have been very thirsty indeed.
With current scientific techniques, it is not possible to test for poison under such circumstances.
We only need a drop, but that one drop does actually have to exist, funnily enough. I'm afraid cotton swabs have yet to be invented.
The lack of examination notwithstanding, it appears nothing other than the tea passed the victim's lips on the night in question.
Eh.
I see. Thank you. The matter's clear.
Cast your eyes over the jury, my learned friend.
What?
You can see it in their faces, I'm sure. The recognition of the accused's guilt. Your client's fate is all but sealed.
Don't seal his face.
I feel like it. Have you seen his lips when he's nervous? In mere moments from now, you will lose, and your compatriot will be damned for all eternity.
He's right. I can feel all 6 of the jurors looking daggers at me.
Flabber.
But I can't let them beat me down. I won't.
Wait. I just realized the old man was a juror in 3 cases in a row for you.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. Counsel for the defense, proceed with your cross-examination.
Yes, my lord. I wonder if this will be a one-day trial. Catastrophic night. All right, buddy, let's talk. Hold it. Were you and your neighbors good friends then?
Oh, no! We weren't friends at all! Not at all! Never! Ever!
A simple no would have sufficed. Then, why did you decide to pay him a visit?
Mr. Shamspeare fetches himself as having great literary knowledge. As a fellow scholar of English literature, we found much to talk about together.
Come now, no Nipponese could understand the finer points of English literature.
That's racist.
Moving on, and on the night in question, that was the topic of conversation as well, I presume.
It was the day of my last trial, when I was acquitted. I had just arrived back at my lodgings, when I ran back into Mr. Shamspeare outside of the street. That was about 6 o'clock. We exchanged 1 or 2 pleasantries, but it soon turned into a heated discussion. He was on his way out at the time, though. So I promised to visit his room that evening at 9 to continue our debate. But did I have ill intentions? No! Not 1, not 2, not any, not at all! Never, ever!
A simple no would have sufficed, I feel.
Then tell the court what happened when you visited the victim's room. I will kick you ass.
You will kick my ass?
And I was
I
still
will kick
laugh.
you ass, is what you
I
said.
will
Yes.
kick you ass.
You are an ass, and I will kick you.
Don't do
You
it.
asshole.
I will kick you, comma, ass. A literary
I will
debate.
kick, comma, you ass.
A literary debate about Shakespeare's works, I think you said, didn't you?
Shakespeare? Ah, very worthy topic of conversation, I must say.
Oh, yes, my lord.
Oh yes, comma, my lord.
Shut up.
Romeo and Juliet, who was stronger? It was a profoundly pleasurable parley.
Romeo and Juliet?
Who was stronger?
I know I'm going to regret asking this, but how did the debate go?
Well, we both agreed that we could reach a conclusion more quickly with an reenactment. So we battled it out in a Greco-Roman style, naturally.
What?
Who was Romeo and who was Juliet?
Mr. Shamspeare had all sorts of costumes
Oh my
in his
God.
room for such a contest.
So
great.
when you say a reenactment, you mean you were actually in costume?
They were LARPing.
He was
Yes, I
Romeo,
knew it.
and
my
I,
God.
Juliet. And I was gorgeous. I was vigorous and a wild tussle.
Oh my, it's getting a little steamy.
I, as Juliet, came out on top.
Nice.
A
Nice.
victory I shall cherish forever.
I dare not to imagine the terrible scene of carnage.
Oh, it was nasty.
The fact remains that it was you who prepared the tea and took it to the victim. Correct?
I boiled the water in my room and made a pot to take with me. I'd heard that he was too poor to have tea himself, you see.
It's true. There was no sign of any tea leaves in that man's room.
I wanted to do something nice to be friendly. So why is everyone looking at me with suspicion? My tea was harmless! Of course it was!
And do you have any basis for that statement, witness?
I'm not dead!
I wonder if Soseki was the intended target, actually. Whoops, sorry.
Maybe.
That's too far. Boop. Okay. Hold it. Yes, there was not a drop of tea left in the victim's room anywhere, was there?
Yes, correct. Anyone would think the poor fellow had never had a pot of tea before. Must have licked it dry. Which is a pity, because one drop is all we would have needed to analyze it for poison.
And you say that you returned home to your room at 11 o'clock, Mr. Natsume.
Yes, definitely. But haven't, or by heaven and earth, I swear it.
The landlord was able to verify that, as it happens. He confirmed that the defendant went back to his room at 11 that night.
And how is the landlord able to attest to this?
He, said it was the lamps, I believe.
The lamps, Inspector.
When tenants return to their rooms and start using gas, the lamps in the other parts of the house flicker.
Yes, Mr. Garadeb seems to pay a lot of attention to the comings and goings of his tenants.
There's only one key to Mr. Shamspeare's room, and I know that for certain. So he must have locked the door himself from the inside of his room.
The victim has confirmed that to be the case, yes?
So I'm right. My tea was harmless, completely harmless. If you take poison, you die. Everyone knows that.
Yeah, it's not that simple, I'm afraid.
What do you mean?
Hold it! Alright, tell me about Session 9. So, how long did it take for symptoms to appear then?
According to the coroner I was speaking to at the yard, about 30 minutes after the poison's consumed. Then, the victim suffers violent convulsions, cramping and stiffness, and eventually dies from asphyxiation.
So there's a 30-minute interval between when the poison is ingested and the onset of symptoms. There seem to be a lot of different types of poison in the world, that's for sure.
Oh dear. Death by poisoning again. It's always so awful.
30 minutes is a long time. Certainly long enough for the victim to have locked the door behind the accused after he left.
You can't deny that. And it further degrades Soseki-san's alibi.
I have a medical report from the doctor who examined the victim here, my lord. It spells it out, really. The accused is the only person who could have done it.
Very well. The court will add this report to the court record as evidence.
The victim's medical report has been entered into the court record.
Oh yes, I see it here. Delayed onset of symptoms.
Let me have a look at that.
Delayed onset of victims is what I almost said.
A report issued by Scotland Yard's medical officer. It obviously mentions the poison as well as other details gleaned during the police investigation. Victim William Shamspeare, he's 31. Cause of coma, ingestion of a small quantity of strychnine. Toxic effects present 30 minutes after ingestion. High likelihood of the substance having been mixed with the tea the victim was drinking, but no sample could be obtained for testing. Investigative conclusions. The poisoning incident occurred at around 1:30 a.m. on the 21st of February, assessed from the victim's pocket watch that appears to have been broken when the man collapsed after the onset of symptoms. No container
How
for the
convenient.
poison. Yeah, no container for the poison was found at the scene. So, wait, but if he collapsed the way that he did, why would it mess up his pocket watch? Something to keep in mind?
Was
Gray.
it like in his breast? Was it in a breast pocket and he fell like face first on the table?
I guess that's possible. Let's talk. The argument still stands, you say?
This is what Mr. Natsume has been saying, isn't it? The pair of them drank tea together that night, so if there was poison in it, the victim wouldn't have been able to lock the door after the accused left later on.
Exactly! Ah, me and my tea are innocent! Innocent, I tell you!
I'm afraid, sir, that doesn't follow. You see, strychnine is a slow-acting poison. In other words, it takes time for symptoms to appear. So you could have left the room up to 30 minutes after the victim drank the tea. And as long as you did that, Mr. Shamspeare could have locked the door after you'd gone.
But no! We drank the tea straight away! The better of whether Romeo and Juliet was stronger! That came after the tea!
Do you have any evidence to support that statement? The victim, maybe?
In my great homeland, the Empire of Japan, we have a saying. No. Oh, drink the tea once!
Sure, a proverb will satisfy the prosecution. Yep.
I'm afraid there's no conclusive proof to support the defendant's assertion. On the contrary, there are sufficient grounds to infer his guilt in the matter.
No!
That's the extent of their testimony, is it?
If I could voice a personal opinion, Mr. Naruhodo.
Of course,
Voice
go ahead.
enough.
Mr. Natsume is arguing for his innocence so adamantly and persistently. Yet, Inspector Gregson just brushes what he says aside. It's really quite infuriating.
I agree. So we need to find an inconsistency with what in what the inspector is saying, I think. Okay.
I'm afraid so. As things stand, the jurors are sure to find Mr. Natsume guilty.
As I see it, what we need to focus on is the poison and the tea. Let's listen carefully to this testimony again.
Yes.
They also seem very caught up in the door being locked and what that would mean. But let's focus on these last two statements then. Strychnine takes some time to have an effect on the body. People don't keel over immediately after taking it. The victim would have been perfectly able to lock the door after his guest left. The argument still stands. Is there a reason that might not be the case?
What does the note on the far right say again?
What, this one? I guess, yeah, we just got this, so it seems likely. Toxic effects, high likelihood of the substance being mixed with the tea the victim was drinking, but no sample could be obtained. Poisoning assessed from, wait, poisoning incident occurred at around 1:30 a.m. on the 21st of February. Assessed from the victim's pocket watch that appears to have been broken when the main collapsed after. Is that the
what
problem?
Time
Sorry?
What time did Natsume leave?
I thought it was 11. Wasn't it 11?
Then, if that was 11, that's when we present that. Or is it?
I don't think they said. Oh, wait.
Yeah, 11!
Yeah?
After which I went, yeah. Okay. I mean, yeah, that'll do it, but that's kind
So
of
we
misleading.
present this as consent?
Consent!
Yeah.
Objection.
Yeah!
Okay.
Mr. Natsume, you say it was 11 p.m. when you left to return to your room, correct?
Yes!
And Inspector Gregson, can we rely on the information in the medical report unconditionally?
Of course we can. There's no problem with that report, Sunshine.
Actually, I think there's a very big problem. Because there's a chronological inconsistency between it and the defendant's testimony.
Colonel, what? What are you on about?
According to this report, the victim must have consumed the poison at around 1:30 in the morning. And yet, the defendant, Mr. Natsume, left the victim's room at 11.
Oh.
Yes, that's right. There's more than 2 hours of missing time there. In other words, if there was a poison in the tea that Mr. Natsume brought to the victim's room, how could the victim have fallen ill to it 2.5 full hours after the defendant left?
Same animation.
Twinsies.
The defense's argument is entirely reasonable. How do you respond, Lord Van Zeeks?
Oh no, come on, give me more than that.
We're starting this
on.
now, are we?
Come on.
Don't break it.
He's gonna.
Yay.
Pray forgive the discourtesy of my mind if my mind has wandered.
No.
I was considering what cuisine would best complement the contents of my hallowed chalice this luncheon.
These nuts.
How could it ever happen, you ask? Ah! I do hate to shatter illusions, but my Nipponese friend appears to be chasing a phantom idea.
A phantom?
Idea?
Oh.
It is hard to imagine that the victim drank his tea after the accused had left, or is it so hard? For example, at the time stated in the medical report, yes, at around 1:30.
Objection. Mr. Natsume brought the tea with him to drink together with his neighbor, and in Japan there is a well-known saying, drink tea while it's hot.
And in my country, there's an even more apt saying. There is nothing more refreshing than a cold tea.
I don't, that's, no,
Bullshit.
bullshit. The point is, if there was...
Iced tea is delicious.
No, well, yes, okay.
I mean,
That-
that is a different thing than letting tea that is supposed to be hot go cold.
Very true.
Are you sure about this, though?
Real.
I am
Yes.
100% sure about this.
Certain. The point is, if there was such a long gap, there may be other ways to explain how the victim came to be poisoned. Other possibilities.
What sort of possibilities, Counsel?
Mm,
Else came in and poisoned him?
well, for example, the man could have had another visitor.
Sorry, I was testing something. Another visitor. That's a very bold assertion, my learned friend. From someone who has nothing to substantiate it.
The burden of proof is on you, bitch.
Or the victim could have taken the poison of his own volition.
Is the burden of proof on me in 1900?
You suggest this may have
Gotcha.
been a suicide, Counsel.
Mr. Shamspeare has categorically denied suicide. The idea can and must be discounted.
Objection. But he could be lying.
Is something wrong, Lord Van Zeeks?
I was listening to the sound of the carriage pulling up outside the courtroom.
Oh,
Pray forgive the discourtesy.
carriage? What carriage? Is he here? That would be good. It would help.
It would seem that the key player in this case has just arrived.
Oh.
That's gonna be.
Oh.
Time to warm up.
Yep.
Out, brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow. A poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then it's heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing.
Uh-huh.
Who, sir, are you?
William Shamspeare, my lord. Alas, 'twas I, undone by these bitter events. I am the victim.
Wait. What's he doing here? Oh.
What would he be doing here?
Yeah, that's good.
You're too used to victims who die.
Yup.
Yeah.
The prosecution seeks to call this gentleman to the stand.
I'm already here.
I didn't allow you to go there yet.
Dude, I'm already here.
With his testimony, my learned friend's futile resistance will be utterly crushed.
You're calling him as a witness? Why wouldn't he?
Very well, Counsel. I grant your request with interest. I'm curious to discover what the court shall hear from the victim itself.
Scarf, staff, and everything. Happy am I, Shamspeare, to regale thee with the tale of my woe, my lord.
Bah! I have my own tale to tell! My own tale of worse woe! I can begin to the court the tale of my perfect innocence in perfect English!
That will do, Mr. Natsume. Let the court now hear from the victim.
Okay.
Oh.
You.
Huh?
What are you doing here?
All right, so that's Mr. Shamspeare, but who is that other man beside him? Mr. Bumblepro.
Yes, I feel sure that we caught a glimpse of that man before.
State your names and occupation for the court, please, witnesses.
Is it gonna be a Marlowe pun? Right half word so sweet, but who sent the breeze? An inventor of ideas so profound, they compose the earth. Unrivaled poet, the unmatched scribe, William Shakespeare. With a great bard to be recalled to life in you, lo, what a magnificent man! Good fellows, I am he who ponders such a miracle, William Shakespeare.
Oh, then it's the Metterman. Andron B. Metterman.
What?
Adrian B. Meterman.
Oh, he does
Okay.
the
Meterman.
That's
Me-
Meter Man.
Meter Man. Oh, Meter Man. Okay, I understand. Meter Man. Okay, I get it. I totally.
Do you want me? Am I allowed to you?
Wow!
I work for the Almont Gas Company, East End Branch Office.
I remember now. It was yesterday on Briar Road.
Oh, yeah, she's right. It's him.
Hmm.
Oh, what's this? What's that man doing over there? He looks like he's trying to see into Soseki-san's lodgings.
Is something wrong, Mr. Naruhodo?
You know, now that I've just said that, I'm a little confused. Which one is on the bottom? Is it Soseki? Or is it Shamspear?
Yeah, Soseki was like, bottom floor, I believe.
Okay.
No,
so
I thought Shamspear was bottom floor.
It's
Soseki was second
yeah.
floor.
it's confusing because they keep saying first floor and ground floor, and it's a little weird.
I think first floor is the second.
Shamspear is on
and
the
ground
bottom,
floor.
says chat. Okay. All right. Well, then that means that Ryunosuke is wrong in what he just said. Excuse me, could we have a word?
First floor and ground floor are different.
Mm-hmm. Which is not confusing. Nobody's confused by that.
Nah.
Not at all.
No.
Nah.
Never.
Yes, we spotted him outside Mr. Garridub's house that morning. And he's a gas company employee? What does he have to do with this case?
Wait, no, he's definitely on the ground floor. Shamspear is, because when we were talking to Garrideb, we were
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
unsure if he would be able to hear from the bottom floor.
That makes total sense. So then Ryunosuke just flubbed his words, I think. I'm pretty sure he was just wrong.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Mr. William Shamspear, you are the victim in this miserable affair, correct?
Oh heaven, oh hell, do you command me to remember that sweet poison that didst cross me and cross mine innocent lips?
I subpoenaed him for the trial with his doctor's permission, naturally.
Hmm.
Hearing the testimony of the aggrieved will remove any room for doubt from the juror's mind, I'm sure.
So your volume for Zeke's and your volume for this new guy are so different that now you're really quiet. And now I don't know what to do.
You live with it.
Okay.
I literally have nothing to do with it.
All right.
You also, if you could, like, lean back when you do the other guy's voice.
I'm already leaning back.
Gotcha.
Okay. Behold, you have only to rearrange the letters of my name to see that me is a seraph, an angel indeed. Thus be I. What was that little move?
I don't know.
Wink.
Thus be I, noble of mind, sweet of nature, and verily honest of heart, as all heavenly angels be. Oh.
Because there isn't a less contrived meaning in your name. No, not at all.
The jurors seem to be very moved by this man, I'm afraid.
They're actually taking this serif anagram idea seriously?
Thank you, witnesses, for illuminating your introductions.
But my lord, what's the man next to Mr. Shamspear doing here? The gas man, I believe. I mean...
I'm the gas man.
What, me? Well now. Allow me to enlighten my learned friend. You recall, I presume, your earlier impertinence. When you suggest that the victim had another visitor to his room on the night in question. And, moreover, that the victim is a compulsive liar.
What? No, I didn't quite say that.
This young Chinstroke is here to controvert your wild claims. Conclusively. What were you laughing at, funny Marshmallow Man?
Joker.
Is that not so, Mr. Meter Man? Hang on, no, I'm just here.
What's Peterman's full name?
Hang on.
Altman B. Meterman? Adron B. Meterman.
Adron B.
Adron B.
Meterman.
Meterman.
A drone B?
A drone B? I guess.
A drone bee.
I guess, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
alright. Yeah, I'll take it.
Who's the queen bee?
Oh. Did you say this?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I hereby call for your formal testimonies. You will tell the court as lucidly as possible what happened on the night in question.
One may smile and be a villain. Yes, it doth pain me, but let the truth be spoken, the truth of that wintry night of my discontent.
Hmm.
I'm liking Meterman a little bit more than Shakespeare.
It shall be made glorious summer. The snow lay about. My neighbor did cometh in the evening, bearing a gift of tea. But merry, bitter was his drink, and when he left, I did fall prostrate on my table. 'Twas the tea alone did pass my lips that late hour, naught else.
I was outside this bloke's window in the freezing cold all night. Keep an eye on his room.
Why?
No one else visited his room but that short little round-backed Eastern fella.
Why were you doing that?
Why weren't you?
Wait. Well, okay, I guess I can't fight that. Wait, what did you just say? You were keeping an eye on Mr. Shakespeare's room all night?
He was betting on the wrestling match.
That's right, cause the bloke's window's all but blocked up, isn't it? But there's a little gaps in the bricks where you can see into the room. So I spent the night trying to keep my teeth from chattering as I peered in through that.
The question is, sir, why?
Well, now, that's because he's on my list.
What a piece of work as a man! Wherefore wouldst thou not stare in wonderment?
What are you talking about?
This buzzing busybody hath not a part in this play. I pray thee, pay him no heed. Make no more ado about his tedious words.
What you say about me?
Oh, his little bag is a bumblebee!
Yeah.
Calm yourself. This court is concerned with what happened on the night in question. Nothing more.
Indeed, that is so.
And as the testimony we have heard clearly reveals, there was no one other than the accused present at the time who could have carried out this crime.
Well, I believe this may be the final testimony of the trial. Now, counsel, the defense may proceed with the cross-examination.
Yes, my lord. All right. Okay. Hold it, sir. To be clear, by neighbor, you are referring to the defendant, Mr. Natsume.
Oh, indeed, sire. Perchance thou would say that I call him the man from upstairs.
Yes?
And at the time, did a mustachioed Nipponese visit you in your room?
Our meeting was promised for the hour of 9, and lo, did he come to tender a gift of fragrant tea.
Details which are in accordance with the defendant's own testimony, yes?
And we were broiled in such a literary debate as history hath not seen before.
By which I presume he means...
The discussion on who was stronger, Romeo or Juliet.
I, Shakespeare, did play the part of young Romeo, whilst my neighbor played the fair Juliet. Each was dressed as would our characters be to bring weight upon our merry experiment.
I dare not imagine the scene.
Someone will. Frailty, thy name is woman. Canst thou imagine how dismayed I was? I have to not look at him. Yes, I'd heard the art of jujitsu, but Nya! Ne'er did I dream 'twould be a skill practiced by the comely maiden.
Oh my god. Juliet beat.
Why are you doing a cat thing?
No, he's doing jujitsu. He's doing jujitsu. Yeah. Juliet beat Romeo up. This is not helping our case.
I believe the court has heard enough about your earth-shattering literary debates. Perhaps you could reiterate your statement about the tea that the accused brought to your room.
My liege, I am thy servant. Gladly I would do thy bidding.
Then shut up.
Oh, yeah. Hold it.
This is just testimony.
Yep. Let me stop you there. Mr. Natsume left your room at 11 o'clock, but it wasn't until after 2 that the poison made you collapse. That amounts to more than 3 hours of missing time. What are you doing? What are you doing? If the defendant had really put the poison into your tea, that 3-hour window of time is something you're going to have to explain.
He's still going.
Stop it.
I love it.
Continue.
I hate it.
Unfortunately, I love him.
Fortunately, I love him.
Gladly, gladly, it is an easy task.
What? Oh.
I did drink of the tea, not while my guest did tarry, but after he took leave of me. Faith, 'twas stone cold, but at 1 hour post midnight, verily my lips parched.
I have to go to
Objection.
the bathroom, but I don't have the heart to do so.
That doesn't sound normal.
Look at him.
Nay, 'tis quite ordinary, sire, after all. Thou wouldst recall our fiery debate. Amid such argument, there'd be no time for fiery tea. Peekaboo.
Romeo and Juliet again, and who was stronger?
Mr. Shakespeare, in summary, allow me to confirm. Did you not come here with the intention of naming your attacker?
But of course, my liege. 'Twas the stupid lover of words that attempt to shaft me off this mortal coil.
We all know what that means.
Same time next week, you be Macbeth. I'll be Lady Macbeth.
Right. So, you didn't have any kind of evening meal, dinner, supper?
Huh. Fire on luxury, fire on gluttony. To eat thrice daily is but a waste of time.
Sorry?
I would that my belly were full.
I want to slap him. What are you doing?
I don't understand what's happening
I
anymore.
think he's pretending to be on a horse.
Is he galloping?
Yeah, he's on a
Is
horse.
he galloping? He's on.
Uh,
I would that my belly were full no more off than the sun doth rise.
Well, most heroic eating habits, I must say.
Night and day I fill my hours with the learned study of the great bard and playwright. Hence it is there doth not in my chamber be the costumes of mine art.
Mm-hmm.
That would appear to be the case, as even a rodent was found starved to death in your room.
And you didn't tell me?
Now that I think of it, it's not just food that was conspicuously missing from that room, is it? I don't recall seeing a single play or script anywhere.
Does this
Hold
man look
on.
like he needs a script?
I've devoured them all.
Oh my god.
Oh,
Oh, you've eaten them?
Every word be within my skull. Didst thou imagine otherwise?
Right, that wasn't misleading at all. Now, could you turn around, do you think?
Which brings us to the conclusion that only way the poison could have passed the victim's lips is in the tea.
Sure, man.
Oh, right. Yep. No! No, go back.
Yes.
Hold it. But the windows of that house have all been filled in.
a historical artifact of the now defunct window tax.
Yes, we know.
Yeah, you're right there. All bricked up horribly. But as it happens, there's a little part of the brickwork at the bottom corner that's been opened up. I was looking into that gap.
Yes, there were a few bricks loose, weren't there?
For some strange reason, a couple of bars of soap lined up on the ledge outside as well.
I don't like going around poking my chin in other people's business, especially on freezing cold nights. But that's my orders, so that's what I'll keep doing. As long as there's breath in my body.
Alright.
I just noticed his little handkerchief is like the little bee wings.
Well, yeah. What's with all the theatrics today?
Out of interest, Mr. Meter Man, after the accused had left and returned to his own lodgings, did you see the victim leave the room at all? No, he never left. He was in that room the whole time as far as I'm concerned. And we can therefore discount the possibility of suicide.
How could you be so sure of that?
The police carried out a thorough investigation of the scene and found no receptacle for the poison. As we know, the victim didn't leave his room and hence didn't dispose of the poison container himself. It's clear that this was no attempted suicide. Only the culprit could have removed the receptacle.
Ah, yes. Lucidly explained, Counsel. Thank you.
It really was. You can't argue with the logic.
I'm gonna be right
Hold it.
back.
Oh, okay.
I trust in you.
You say a short little round-backed Eastern fella, so you can't be sure it was the defendant then.
Objection!
How many other short little round-backed Nipponese with a mustache do you think there are in London? Well, of course, it's only a narrow gap and it's quite dark, so I didn't notice the mustache. But he showed up around 9, so I'm pretty sure of myself.
And when the person you saw arrived, did he and Mr. Shamspear drink tea together?
Nah, sorry, I couldn't say.
Why not?
Because I couldn't see into the room all that well, could I? What I did see was the silhouette of that little round-backed fella wearing a pretty dress.
Oh.
Then a pair of them started in some kind of wrestling match.
Oh, boy.
Is that what they call it these days? I tell you, I didn't know what to make of it.
Meter Man, shame on you.
I suppose. That was the Romeo and Juliet championship battle getting underway.
Oh, boy.
Mr. Meter Man, allow me to confirm one final time. Apart from the accused, can you state with certainty that no one else visited the victim on the night in question? No question! Gasman's honor!
Huh?
Oh.
Hold it.
Uh-oh.
Who's holding it?
Did Jay pick a bad time?
Don't be holding it. Oh!
Oh! Oh! Oh.
My lord!
I was ready for an entrance. God damn it.
Surprise, it's
Goodness
me again.
Yes, Mr. Foreman?
I've kept my mouth shut and listened up to now, but this has gone on long enough. Are you all with me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Are we to understand that you ladies and gentlemen of the jury are in agreement with one another? That you reach an unanimous decision?
Unanimous, sir. Two right we have.
Shut up, ghosts!
Are you all with me?
Yes. Come on. Yes.
Tofu!
Okay. Wait. No, the defense is in the middle of a cross-examination.
To be honest, I was holding out a bit of hope for you, young man. Especially after you identified those few hours that followed the accused leaving the victim's room.
Yes, the 3 missing hours, as you put it.
But in the end, what difference do they make? None as far as I can see.
And since that's now apparent, there's really no reason to delay our decision any longer.
Like I was saying before, if I don't take 5 bob home with me tonight, the missus will blow her top.
Ah! What's that? Oh, I didn't quite catch what you said. And they bring me back.
Very well. Let the court be apprised of your decisions. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will state your leadings as to the defendant's culpability.
Guilty.
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 Meh.
Fire!
Yeah.
Waffles.
All of you?
Well, it would appear that the jury is indeed unanimous.
So, this time at least, it seems justice will be done. All's well that ends well, as they say. This calls for a toast, I feel. To the guilty being punished.
Oh.
Get up, Mr. Naruhodo. Please. The trial isn't over yet.
What do you mean, Mrs. Zato? Did you forget?
What about the information I found in this Encyclopedia of British Law that I have?
It's a refresher.
That obscure right that belongs to the defense in these situations. Remember?
A summation examination. Yes, that's right. We don't have a jury in Japanese courts, of course. But here in a British court of law, if we can reverse the decisions of a majority of the jurors, we can force the trial to continue. This trial can't end now. Whatever it takes, I just can't let that happen. The defense moves to invoke its right to a summation examination, my lord.
Why am I not surprised at my learned Nipponese friend's inability to admit defeats?
It's happened every trial so far.
Yeah.
What do you mean defeat? When have I lost?
What is
When?
defeat?
Your client
Never met them.
died.
Oh,
Still won the case.
still one.
I still get paid.
You chose to cling desperately to some archaic rule you barely comprehend, instead of accepting the truth.
Certainly no other defense counselor in recent times has exercised the right to a summation examination.
Because they all know that once the jury's mind is set, it cannot be altered.
Nevertheless, the right remains and must be upheld. The defense counsel's request is granted. The court will proceed with a summation examination, as outlined in the Encyclopedia of British Law.
Thank you, my lord.
Are you and your fellows prepared, Mr. Foreman?
Believe me, my lord, we know all about this young lad's tenacity,
Yeah.
and we are ready for it.
Very well. In that case, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I hereby call upon each of you to state the grounds upon which you find the defendant guilty of the crime for which he stands accused.
Kind of awkward timing here.
Yeah, a little
A little.
Maybe
bit.
we,
We could get it.
maybe we go a little bit and see if a good stopping point comes.
Yeah.
Jurors' contentions.
Guilty.
The victim may not be well off, but he's a noble man and straight up. There's no reason to doubt the man.
Well, I do declare the good gentleman had no reason to lie. In fact, I think he's rather splendid.
Just look at the accused by comparison. He's Japanese, stoops all the while, and has a mustache. Very fishy. How dare he has a mustache?
There's no evidence to suggest the gangling actor is a fraudsman. For now, at least.
Your lead juror has a W mustache.
I really don't care, like, I just need this trial to end quickly.
3 hours of missing time is nothing when you reach my age, you know? Nothing at all. Where am I?
Okay.
Are we still trying that one lady?
Wait, which one? Who are you talking about?
I don't remember.
I don't remember what you're talking about. Oh, Gina?
Right.
No, that hasn't happened yet, old man. What are you talking about?
I can see the future.
Scary. I knew it.
Future.
Every single one of them seems completely convinced.
I forgot you had that.
I do not.
Clearly. It would seem that all the jurors have come to the conclusion that Mr. Shamsphere is a fine, upstanding, and honest citizen.
If you ask me, they've all been bewitched by his strange theatrical movements.
And sadly, nothing Mr. Natsume has said appears to have registered at all.
Well, here goes. Let's not forget, I've pleaded with the jury on Soseki-san's behalf before, and it worked, so you never know. Before we begin...
Before we
Oh.
begin, it might be an idea for me to remind you exactly how a summation examination works, Mr. Naruhodo.
Oh, that sounds like it would fill in the time nicely.
Well, you're still very new to British law, after all.
That's true, I suppose, and Soseki-san's fate is entirely in my hands now, too. There's always a chance I might have forgotten some crucial detail. Perhaps I should hear Suzato-san out. I wonder, should I let her talk me through it again or not bother? Oh, I didn't think you were gonna give me the option.
We know how it was.
We know.
Yeah.
We got a handle. on
Okay,
it.
yeah, alright.
We know how video games work.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Thank you for the kind offer, Miss Suzato. But I've been through plenty of these summation examinations already now. I think it's important that we don't delay the start any longer than necessary.
Of course, I understand. And I'm quite sure you're right.
Even though that's exactly what I'm going to do.
If you're confused by anything at any point, you can turn to me to advice whenever you like. I'll be here for you.
The key to this is really listening carefully to each juror's statement. Finding two that are contradictory and pitting the corresponding jurors against each other.
Without further ado, please, counsel, proceed with the summation examination.
Yes, my lord. Hi back there. Can you, like, go into the corner or something?
Oh. Not be well off
Oh.
is a nobleman.
Hold it! Well, there are plenty of people in London who seem noble but poor. Couldn't some of them also be liars?
I've no doubt about it. Like that shaky client of yours, for example.
Absolutely not. Mr. Natsume is no liar.
Look, the point is, the only thing that passed the victim's lips that night was that Japanese man's tea. When you take the gas man's testimony into account as well, the truth couldn't be any clearer.
Well, that's alarmingly logical.
But let me be frank here. I'm a gentleman with a gentleman's values. If it turns out that old Shakespearean chum is a rotten liar after all, I'll gladly change my decision about the defendant. And I'm sure my fellow gentlemen on the jury would do the same. Isn't that right?
Yes, perhaps. Though I don't see it happening.
Ah, what's that? Elderly gent on the end here, you know. You'll have to speak up.
Look, I really don't care about all this nonsense. I just need this trial to be over.
How many gentlemen do we actually have on the jury then? All right, sir. I may hold you to that. Don't forget what you said. Oh, it's different.
Oh.
All right, if you can show me that the victim is a liar, I'll reconsider my position.
Let's talk again. Will you stand by that statement?
What do you take me for? I'm a gentleman, sir, a man of my word.
I have
So
one.
let me be perfectly clear about this. If it turns out that
Uh-huh. Okay, all right, fine.
you already read this.
All right.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh,
Gonna
okay, yeah.
skip through this. Just
Oh, I guess it
mash
is the
button,
same.
but not
Okay.
too much.
They don't usually do that. Usually it's different.
Who are you?
All right, sir. I'll hold you to that. Okay. All right. Give me
Harumph, sir. Harumph.
give me one more. Hold it. Are you saying you believe the man to be trustworthy because he's rather splendid?
No, that's not what I said. The point is, the man is the victim here. What reason would he have to lie?
And what reason would I have to squint?
And yes, he is rather splendid.
So you say, and yet again.
Meanwhile, the man who stands accused behaves so suspiciously, it's exhausting to look at him. I'm afraid he's not splendid at all.
Splendid logic there, madam. Thank you so much. I mean, at least she didn't explicitly say it was because she's racist. I don't know. All right.
This guy, though.
All right. All right.
That easy.
That's it. That's the bit. We gotta call it.
Yeah, it's the
Well, this is a weird one. This is a weird one.
Yeah.
Shamspear is a
I
lot.
love it.
Yeah.
I love him.
Pretty
Also,
good.
welcome to the jury, new lady. You're like the only new character here. You're like the only new
Yeah.
character in this whole trial. The
Yeah, she's the
whole
only
thing.
character
She
in
is.
Britain.
You've got to be the
She is
villain.
the-
It's you.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll start
He
squinting at
has
you.
done it.
yeah.
Squint!
Take the
The door's
squint,
a door.
lady.
We figured it out.
Wait,
Squint.
Squint.
What?
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
look at her. Look at her again.
Okay, all right. I'll look at her again. Hang on, give me a moment. All right. Yep.
She's wearing yellow and black.
Oh my
She's the
God.
queen bee.
No!
Oh my. Actually, wait. That's a solid deduction. That could be the case.
Yeah.
Well, we'll find out about that next time. Tomorrow we're doing nothing. It's break night.
Nothing.
And then
Nothing.
Friday, what are we doing?
What?
Maybe
Friday.
she's
Friday.
just sailed Brett in disguise. No, I've given up. It's done. It's dead. The hope is dead.
For once, I've forgotten the schedule.
Friday
It
is Elden Ring.
Elden Ring. Where? No.
Well,
I-
yeah, I'm
where we-
gonna
where-
say it again.
No, we don't-
I will make the series last forever. by
Where
saying
we
that
will
it
not
might
beat the
be
game. The
final
game will
episode.
no. The game will not finish. It won't. That's the unending video game.
The game will never end.
It can't end. It's actually how it works.
It's always beginning.
Why is it
Also,
always
Clueless-
just beginning? Sorry. Yes.
Also, Clueless is playing Psychonauts tomorrow. If you want to spoil yourself.
Oh, I've already seen it, but I don't know. Anyway, folks, thank you all very much for coming in. I guess it's beeswax soup. Beeswax soup or
Beeswax.
Sure.
or poison
Oh.
soap soup. Poison tea
Maybe
soup.
you should mention for those who haven't heard it probably. But
Soup
on
spear.
Saturday at 7 p.m. EST, on the highlight channel, Clueless is uploading a 2020 highlight reel.
Ooh,
Oh, yeah.
it's gonna be
It's
fun.
gonna be great.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Ugh, but for now, we are checking out. Thank you all very much for coming in, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.